Radio Free America. This is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the walls. The chair is against the walls. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
And welcome, everybody, or at least erstwhile, to our Daily Gun Show. Going to be live every weeknight at midnight Eastern. And we talk about guns for an hour. So I guess I ran this on the wrong channel yesterday. But I think, oh man, am I on the wrong channel again? Let me go figure out. I don't even know how to push buttons anymore. Oh yeah, we're on the wrong channel again. All right, well, so good. I'm being corked, so I'm fighting back with a big channel. So there you go. So we'll make this about the patch batch also. Boom, boom, boom. Screen share. What the hell is screen share? There we go. And click this button. There we go. So don't be scared. This is how big my monitor is. So this is the patch batch over here. I'll close this one so nobody gets scared. But that was me verifying that I posted this on the wrong channel again. I don't count Honda and NEA. Those little tiny people, they don't bother me. I only count channels that are big, that try to cork me, that attempt to cork me. It doesn't really happen though. It's sort of like waves hitting the beach. They're there for a second, but then they disappear because they can't live on the beach. They're water. So we got the patch batch going over here on the Indiegogo, and I guess we'll move it over here. This doesn't need to be half a screen. This is the one that's supposed to be half a screen. Come on. There we go. What is going on with this thing today? There we go. So yeah, we have reached the goal, which is awesome. So let's see. I guess I can. Oh, I was looking for a logo a second ago. All right, so we've got the patch batch, which has been going for, I think it was set for 27 days. So it's been going for like 24 days. And it's not slowly growing. It's had two different spurts. And the spurt today reached the 100% mark and beyond. So we're close to 130%. We're closing in on 130% with 3 days to go. And I'm planning on putting a big telethon on Saturday and going live all day. So hopefully we'll see some of these other stretch goals hit. So let's go down the projects page here and scroll down on the story tab, I guess. And it talks about the project, and we get down to the timeline, and then we get to stretch goals. So the projects are designed to allow people to financially support and then help get the word out. So I don't know if that'd be called socially supporting it, but it helps to support the project in multiple ways. This project was set up that it would not happen until we reach the goal. And then once we reach the goal, it can accept more. It can get larger. It's just that it couldn't happen until we reach that threshold, let's say. So now that we can instigate the orders, is that the way to say it? We've kind of had the orders pending at the manufacturer waiting to reach the goal. We can go ahead now and execute, I guess, those orders or get those orders fulfilled. And anyway, so now everything's working. Now if we continue, if more and more people continue to support the thing, we just tell them, hey, make more patches, right? So it's easy to say make more. It's not necessarily something we can negotiate to say, hey, make less, right? So once we reach the goal, we're good to go. And now we can start to look at the opportunities, I guess, that we have going forward. So without knowing how much the current stuff is going to cost, it's a little tough to try to anticipate this stuff or project it out. So I just did my best. So we've got the 10 grand for creating the project. We're good to go there. We've hit the $12,000 goal already. So now we're going to hook up with our friends, Alan Anchor, over in California. and we'll get to work probably on a patch sticker first, because I doubt that there's enough money, to make to make as many patches as we need to do stickers parallel. But we'll get a bunch of stickers made to go with everybody, and then we'll continue to grow, hopefully. And as we do, our next stretch goal will be approximately 15 grand or so. And we're going to, I put the goal here as more patches for each group. So in other words, if we're going to give 100 to them each, maybe we can make it 150. Because right now at this point, we have 255 backers. Let's say that I order 100 for them and then enough for the backers. That would be ordering 355. That's a dumb number to order, right? So no free cheat on which channel. I don't know what this is all about. So block user. That's weird. So people look for attention by jumping on an anonymous platform. We got 255 backers, so that means obviously we're going to need 255 patches for them, and then 100 go into the different organizations. So that's an order of 350. So that's a dumb number. So let's say we order 400, or we're able to order 400 with these funds, let's say. So now they're going to get 150 instead of 100. That'll be our first goal, and I put that in there as sort of a fudge, right? Sort of a room to figure it all out. Once we start figuring out how complicated the designs are, how large they are, a couple of factors. Since they're usually made by robots these days, it takes some amount of time to cut out the, whatever you call, like the pattern or something. So I'm assuming that's all time. They don't really care what it looks like as much as how much time it's going to take them to cut it out. So something like Liberties is probably going to take a little bit more than something like GunTube, which is fairly basic. The rest of these aren't representing the patches. The patches will look different. So most of them are more complicated than what you see here. Walk the Talk is fairly simple. GunTube's probably going to be fairly simple. Guns and Gadgets is pretty simple. There's just some color changes and stuff. So whenever they cut that, that's one factor. Next is they're going to squirt in the rubber, and that's done with a robot. So I can't imagine that costs too much. Maybe a number of colors comes into play. I'm sure Liberties will cost more than like riding shotgun with Charlie's, which is 2 colors, but not huge difference there. That's not the biggest price for sure. But then the next price comes in is how big these things are going to be. So whatever the math is, how big these things are, depending, and then multiplied by how thick they are, is going to be how much rubber is in them. And of course, the material costs, how much rubber it costs to even get the thing. But then the factor we care about more is weight for shipping. So the larger they are, the more rubber's involved, the more, a little bit more rubber times 350 or more is going to be a lot more shipping. So that's the other thing we got to keep in mind. So since those things are factors, all those are variables, it's difficult to anticipate. So and I didn't put a lot of fluff room in here. It's definitely not way over budget or anything. So somewhere in there, we'll get to a point where, the goal isn't to get just these 12 organizations like 1,000 patches, right? That would be pointless. So at some point there, we're going to bring another organization in. Don't know where that'll be. We'll know that. We'll be able to know that, I suppose is the way to say it, once we start to get the rubber samples. Because right now we've got art on most everybody done, good to go. So the first thing is they'll look at our art and they'll turn it into some kind of machine art that works for them, the manufacturers. The manufacturers will then, once we approve the art, they'll make a rubber sample. Once they've made their rubber sample, they can tell how much it's going to really cost. So we're not at the point yet where we know how much any of them are going to cost. So that's where we're at, and that's where the stretch goals are kind of designed. So right now we're rocking. We're at almost 13,000. I'm going to refresh right here, see if it's still growing. It's not growing as we speak, but it's been growing today. So since it's on its way to 13, let's go ahead and assume it'll hit 15. The big question will be, can we get to 20? What's neat about campaigns like this, about crowdfunding, and one of the reasons I wanted to do the project this way, as opposed to some other way of doing it, there's lots of other ways to do it, right, is this brings 250 people on board, and those 250 people are interested enough in the concept to participate, right, and throw their money into it, use their capitalism powers. And if those people see that it's gaining momentum, they're going to bring more like-minded people around. So that's where I think it's interesting. Unlike, well, it's very much like a viral thing. a viral thing goes viral because someone says, hey, you know, I like this video about a bow and arrow. I'm going to send it to my friends who like bow and arrows, and they're going to send it to their friends who like bow and arrows, right? That kind of exponential growth, that pattern, you know, that's what we call viral. That's the concept. So as these things get successful, they bring more interested people together, which has the potential, I guess, to bring even more interested people together. So I'm really looking forward to that. And that's the big goal. Today we had Jared posting a video about all the different projects, and hopefully that's, you know, part of what this is all about, is letting each other's audience know about each other. So that's an example that others can see. There's still 3 or 4 days for everybody else to work on stuff like that. So we've got a lot of potential with the project, and really looking forward to it. The best part is the other part, the parts that we don't necessarily, there's nothing to look at, but the parts when we get together, these organizations all get together off air, and I can walk them through how the project works, what it looks like for Indiegogo for a project. But on a successful project, it's just much more fun. You know, it's always more fun to look at a project that has reached its goal, and then I can show them what it's like to distribute I'm not going to click on these things to show everybody's address here, but I can, you know, show them how this tool here, this particular tool, Indiegogo, lets us keep track of the items that go out and who's participating. That creates a mailing list, and there's different ways that projects can use that kind of stuff and incorporate it into their ideas. And the cool part, and it's already happened on this project, is that when everybody gets together, we start to share ideas, and everybody's doing things completely differently. We all have our different like focuses and the ways that we do things. We all have our own life experiences and our own audiences. So having this as an excuse to bring people together to work on a common thing has been awesome. So it's been successful in at least 2 different ways. So that part of it's been awesome. And hopefully we'll see some unanticipated or unpredictable positive results, you know, from that. Not to mention everybody will get patches. So we'll see a bunch of groups who've, you know, the DC project has never had a patch. WTTA has done great things with their wristbands, but they've never had a patch to play with. CCDL has had a patch, but it was just for members. So this will be something new that they can give out. And I know their organization has pride in their organization. They came down to the DC rally last November. Given Skip and Katie, Liberty Doll, Untube, even Jared, some patches to figure out how to use, you know, if they decide to give them to their Patreon folks, so that there's, you know, exclusivity to it. If they use it as a fundraiser, who knows? So, and what's cool is that all 12 organizations will probably do different things, at least slightly different, if not completely different uses with their patches. So they'll all be able to share and experience what each other has done. So hopefully it'll work on lots and lots of different levels. So great to see it. 250 people made that possible. How cool is that? That just 250 people out there clicked the buttons. They didn't really have to do too much. Use their capitalism powers to make $13,000 just appear onto the internet like this, get redistributed, not through government or through force or through manipulation or anything weird, just through you know, the electronic tools that we have available to us. The next step beyond this is to get something like this called Indie Gun, where it's the industry making this possible, industry giving us the tools. You know, we'll be working on things ourselves here. We've had lots of practice in the past working on different tools, but I'm kind of sick of using off-the-shelf tools. Personally, I'm going to start digging into coding again, and we'll see if we can't build some of these tools for the community ourselves, right? All right, so I don't know who you are, but welcome. Erstwhile is saying, do you actually send them a scale drawing of the patches, or do they do that, generally speaking, in a machining? The smaller the corner or something, the more expensive it is to machine. Exactly. So I kind of have some experiences, you know, with, you know, I have enough knowledge to break things and to make things really expensive. But I have a little bit of experience with how machines work. So I think I, you know, try to facilitate that, but each one's a little bit different. So sometimes I'll see a design and I'll tweak it a little bit before I send it to the manufacturers. Other times, I'm at this point, I'm pretty aware, knocking on wood, pretty confident on what they can do and what they can't do. So there's some designs I'll send to them because I know that it's outside my wheelhouse, so to speak. Other times, like I say, I'll go in and maybe what's the word, simplify, like basic a drawing up a little bit. So it all kind of depends, but most of the time, even if I send them something I've tried to work on, they're going to work on it. So they're always going to redo my art. And I'm sure it's exactly what you're talking about, making sure that whatever they give me, I'm sure has passed either some sort of a tool in the art program, or they're just building it in the machine program, but some sort of a filter, or some sort of a waypoint, or some sort of a measure that it's going to work with the actual machines. But I haven't got to the point where, you know, I'm seeing through that to see, maybe if I knew more about CAD CAM, I'd be able to see some of the things that they do, or some rhyme or reason to what they do. I mean, aside from what you're kind of alluding to there, you know, the making the radiuses bigger. But I'm guessing there's some tool paths and stuff that are in there that I'm not seeing because I'm not reading that yet. But I suspect there's some things I could probably do once I knew that stuff to make the you know, those things even faster. But honestly, that part of it, I can't imagine they put too much effort into it because it only happens once. It's not like they're making parts where they need to do a repetitive machine process over and over, right? They're not doing production line stuff. They're making a couple and then they're using those. They probably only have to ever make it again if somebody breaks it or, you know, it gets worn out or something, but I can't imagine they get worn out. I'm surprised that they're still cutting these things, that they're not 3D printing them. So you would think that, I don't know, I guess there's not enough money in it yet to get a printer. We would think that having the art, all they'd have to do is make the cavity or whatever, the opposite side of the half in 3D and print it out. Yep. Thanks. Like I said, that's 250 people did that. We just stood here and watched it happen. Do projects like this screw you on your taxes? Yeah. I don't want to talk about it, but yeah, I don't. These aren't. Don't do this. Like, this isn't the money making thing. It's not good. If I had any sense, I wouldn't be doing these things. Or if I did it, it would be more I would look at my taxes and then figure out how to do it. I do it, and then I apologize a lot and try to make it up on my taxes. But I am not at a point where I don't have to think about it. I just am at a point where I don't care. You know. So no, it's horrible on my taxes. Honestly, I'm bitching more about other things. For a long time, Gun Channels was horrible because it was just a whole bunch of random things coming in and generating 3 transactions, and that was horrible and random. So I've got nightmares from that. And then I had some other things that I did wrong. So I'm thinking of a lot of things that mess up my taxes, but that certainly came along and screwed with it. It makes it look like I just made $12,000, right? Like, for tax wise, like, I got to be responsible for that $12,000. I don't charge the people that we're given those to. So yeah, I'm not going to say it's easy, and I'm no accountant. I'm not saying it's smart or the way to do it. If I was an accountant, I probably wouldn't be doing it. Right? If I was smart, I probably would not be doing it. But I'm doing it to try to give the community some strength and give it an opportunity to exercise collaboration, working together, instead of just talking about it. All right, well, I just kind of dug in here and realized that I put this on the wrong channel, so I'm going to throw the link out there. If anybody wants to jump in, this is a show mostly for our Patreons. It's just a way to have a conversation each night. We're something like 1,140-ish episodes in, so while it used to have some, now it's just a get together so we can chat about things in the evening. And since the project just ended there, that's what we were talking about there. But we could also talk about qwarking and the rudeness for other people to assume that they have the liberty to just squish all over somebody else's time slot. So no matter what channel I'm on, I feel like I should have every single time slot, every single weekday. It's not that I'm not asking for a lot, just 5 out of the 7 weeknights, or I guess 5 out of the 7 nights, just the weeknights. And just from midnight on, that's all. I'm not asking for that much big of a chunk of the internet, just the evenings, which nobody else wanted anyway until I got them, until I started making all this money on them. all of a sudden I'm getting quirked like it's nobody's business. So let's see, we've been chatting about gunsmith schools the other day, last night, and turned out to have a pretty good chat because two of the people were alumni of Penn and Foster. We chatted about that yesterday. We've been chatting about shooting ranges before that. And I posted over on the Instagrams earlier today about the shooting ranges. So I'm going to go look at the Instagrams and see if anybody's given me new suggestions. So it looks like there's 8 of them over here now. So we got this picture and then that picture. So I just took this. I've got a plugin that lets me take a picture of the whole website, the whole page, I should say, not the whole website, but the whole page. So now this is a very long page. Like it would be very difficult for me to even display it on the browser, right? If I started to decrease the size, if I started to bring this thing out to 25% of normal, you'd see that it's, it's a long web page, right? But if you tried to get the entire web page on there, it would look like this. It would look crazy. So I use this thing called, I guess, Go Full Page. I'm not trying to sell it because it's free. But anyway, you just get this plugin for your browser, and then it lets me download basically an image of the website. So now there's an image of that website. It's just a picture that represents what the website's got there. So I can close off the bat, and we'll go back to 100% over here. So I took this big giant picture of the web page, went back up to the top. Now I'm going to scale that down a few blocks. And then this is opened in Microsoft Paint or something. So I'm just going to go into here and I'm going to highlight or select, I guess, this chunk. Oh, there's somebody jumped in. Highlight this chunk and then crop it. And then move this over a ways, and then crop all this, find somewhere in the middle. Oops, find somewhere in the middle. Drag it over here. And that's how you crop that, and that's how you get the image that I used over here. Anyway, so now I asked people on the Instagrams if they knew, that's the wrong one, if they knew any ranges out there. So somebody was in here and they left. So if anybody knows any ranges out there that are either awesome, right, or cool or old, I'm interested. Well, there's Angelina. So this would be the company that we're going to be, well, one of the companies that she runs is going to be the company we'll be trying to get these patches from. Or I mean these, not the patches, the stickers from. Assuming she's still in business. If she's still in the business of stickers. Let's see. So then we got Royal Range in Nashville. Grab that. Favorite range, Granite State Indoor Range and Gun Shop in Hudson, New Hampshire. I only have one in New Hampshire. Actually, I don't even know if I have a range in New Hampshire. I only have one thing in New Hampshire. My not so favorite range is Manchester in Manchester. So there's 2 ranges in New Hampshire. I always think of New Hampshire as Rhode Island because of some reason, but New Hampshire is actually a normal sized state. Rhode Island is the tiny one. I don't know why he wrote Bureau of Land Management, but he did. And then this one says Alley Outdoors is one. So I don't know what this is. This is some sort of shillery. See, I can quirk also. I can quirk topics. So I don't know if this is shilling or what this is, but this is just some person, allegedly. Let's look at him. Frank Egger. Allegedly just some person who does something to fish, smells fish, it looks like, goes fishing. I don't understand why a lot of people, I guess it's like cow tipping. You wait for a critter to be sleeping, and then you sneak up behind it and grab it by the antlers. I see a lot of pictures like this online. Evidently, it's dangerous because often they'll have a rifle with them. But like this guy snuck up behind this elk. Seems dangerous to me. Like when that elk wakes up and looks back, it's dangerous. But that's maybe why they do it. Thrill seeking. So anyway, this guy says that this other channel on Instagram is so good. And it just looks like a fancy shop to me. But anyway, what got me is that they didn't have much about their range. I had to go all the way down and down and down and down. So maybe they just don't talk about their range. But I only barely looked at it. So we'll go to their website also. The gun shop doesn't bore me. It's just that nobody else is jumping in here, so it's boring. Let's see. So yeah, I keep getting messed up. So when you go to StreamYard's made in Canada, so it's not all that great. It's not as good as GunTuber. So let's say you go to StreamYard, right? You're minding your business in StreamYard. If you click in here and click the wrong thing, now I'm on the big channel. So if I go in here and click this one, I'd have been on the correct channel. So that's what happened is I wasn't paying attention. I was being qwarked. I was minding my business, right? Every single night, weeknights at midnight. It's not that big a deal. It's not that hard to figure out, right? My time slot. I'm being qwarked. Get frustrated. I click the wrong button. Sure, I'm on the biggest channel. Big deal. But so now we're going to talk about some gun shops. Manchester, Firing Line, Granite, and Royal, and then Alley. I'm going to use this to click over to images real quick, even though El Pato images are not as good as Google images. I got an image. I got the logo there. I get the logo here. Okay, there's the logo. I'm looking for the logo in their images. Right off the bat, I don't like this one. I don't know what's going on. I guess this is their logo. So maybe one logo on this one. Anyway, because of Hudson, New York, maybe. Let's get so many non-gun related pictures on that one. There's their logo. All right, and then we got Royal, and there's their logo. Ugh, attached to a picture. What is this? The olden days? Well, there's a better logo. All right, so now we can go look at these shops. So this is that first one that Shill posted on my chat or on my link or my thing over there. Oh look, they got one of them things going where they brand the bread with so that they can charge you more for that hamburger. Let's see, it's in Texas, Midland, Texas. Looks like a country club. They got an oil rig in the front. You know, and for me, that should, to be legitimate, that should be a real oil thingy, whatever that's called. Pump. I've been to places that cost a ton of money in California that have real pumps right in their front yard, making money in their front yard. That would have been cool if that gun shop was making money in their parking lot. What kind of wind do they got going on that this guy needs two head things? Like barely the Air Force needs that when they're standing in front of jets and shit. They got some good AC in that range. All right, so I guess I'm putting it in here. But so far I don't like the website. How about an About Us page? Tell me what's so good about this place. Looking to shoot rimfire and pistol calibers? No. Do they have an About Us? First thing I usually do is look for an About Us. They're like, oh, here's their About Us. About it. Started by locals for locals. So right off the bat, they're like, F you, dude, in Arizona. And our mission is to provide excellent service to locals and a one-of-a-kind experience to locals never seen by any of you people outside of West Texas. West Texas? No wonder. All right, so I guess we're going to cram it in here. So the way you cram something into WordPress or into this website, which is powered by WordPress, run on WordPress system, is it's a bunch of posts that are organized by pages. So we're going to create a post and we're going to name it the name of this place. And I look for some place that just has letters, so I don't have to type anything. So I go to right click that, and now I got the name of the place. I'm going to shove it down here for later. And now I am going to use that same power of right clicking to go over here and and right click my way to find their logo somewhere. So I'm going to right click it into the search engine, and then I'm going to click on the images. And if I don't find a logo, oh, look, I found a logo. So now I'll go right click on that logo, save image as, shove it into my big, let me shove it into this big pile of logos. I have multiple piles of logos, and I can right click. See, that's got the same name as everything else I'm doing. So now I can close that because I don't think I need it anymore. And I already started with the name of the place. Most every place does this with their addresses now. Shit. Cricket. Where they don't put their own name on their address because they're doing it for the visual, not for the robots, the spiders, and the rest of the internet. So if you're creating a web page, realize that more than just humans use a web page. In fact, humans very rarely use your web page. They barely look at it. 99% of the time, your web page is sitting there being accessed, and its job is to inform robots and spiders. So if you build for humans, you're more than likely lose into somebody who builds for the real internet. Anyway, so we grabbed that, and I like to shove a little line in here. They call it a layout element now. And then I'll jam that little line. You got to find it. Jam it up above there. Now I take the website and cram it under the phone number. And this is the way that WordPress deals with that now. And boom. So now that gives me a pretty close for a little bit of a format. All right, so now there is going to be no about us, right? I'm just never going to know anything about this place. Started by locals for locals. Fine. If you're so proud of that, I'm putting that in your description on my shit too, so everybody can know that you hate them. So put that in there and go over to document. This is in Texas. It's in West Texas by the Rude. And we're going to go to the shooting range. And we're going to go to featured thing. And I'm going to go to that pile of what do you call them? Logos I just crammed into here. And what was the name of this place? Alley. So I don't like that stupid rectangle, so I'm going to edit it. And I'm going to edit it into a square. That's better than a rectangle. And I'll just save it because I never want a rectangle version. And then I'll just shove that square up there. I don't like that logo. That logo is fine if you're making like a evil, I don't know, warehouse in a video game. But for real life, what does that logo tell anybody? It doesn't even look like guns. It looks more like a weed eater, or maybe like some sort of a dado tool, or like a table saw. Doesn't look like a gun range or nothing. See, this is what you can do when you don't get sponsored by the people. You just are trying to help them out, so you can talk shit while you're helping them out. All right, so I don't know. I'm not going to be able to find out anything about their site from their site, which is fine. It's not like they're trying to hide it. They just don't care to tell anybody, and they got nothing to be proud of yet, so they're not proud of it. Yeah, there's nothing. So I'm going to quit looking and wasting everybody's time, and instead I'm going to go to the Wayback. Or are we going back? Fill in the blank there, and then we go to the Wayback and find out what the internet tells us how old this place is. Looks to me like it's from 2018. So we're going to open that up in a new window. And we'll see what was going on with their website in January 3rd of 2018. Oh, it says coming soon. Look at that. So now we can go to October, where they seem to have a lot of hits on their website. And will it say grand opening? Will it say newest something, blah, blah, blah? Your new favorite range? Anyway, we know that it started in 2018. I'm not trying to create the most information thing in the world, so we'll just put 2018 in here. Whatever I don't know, I just put January 1st. And they wanted the world to know, they'd put right on their main page or something, right? So now I do know enough to be able to hit opened in 2018. I justify that to the right, and I push that up a little bit, and that's my format. So now I hit publish. And it's tagged with shooting range, it's tagged with Texas. So if we go over to gun shop guide now, main page where you people look at it, and you go to shooting range, it's going to be in there. That little goofy logo that means nothing is right there next to that Fox logo that doesn't mean nothing, but at least it looks cool. Or this logo that says shooting center. Oh my goodness, now you know exactly what that logo is. But you click on it, there you go. You click on Texas, and it's in the list with everything else that's in Texas. So that's how you add something to WordPress, or in this case, add something to the shooting range list. And is it a gun shop? Well, they got rentals. So you know what? I'm going to go back in there. I'm going to edit it. Blah, 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 about, no, and then add rental, because now it'll show up in the rental list also. But is it a gun shop? Range retail, let's see what retail says. Yeah, they're a gun shop. So I'm also going to go down the list and type gun shop. Update that. Now when you go back and you click on actual gun shops, it'll show up in here. But whatever, since I gave it 2018, it'll show up down here as if I visited it in 2018. I don't really filter the gun shops the same way as I do the ranges, because there's a billion more gun shops in here. Anyway, we're going to quit critiquing their site and go on to the next one, which looks like it's called Royal Range. Holy moly, does that look cool. Now tell me that isn't a cool looking thing. Is Angelina still out here? It's an A and an O for Alley Outdoors. Oh, what is? What did I miss? What did I miss? So if I got to go back one. Oh, the logo. Okay, I got you. All right, I'll shut up. I'm just talking shit anyway. So I have no idea who that range is. I was just being ornery. So now we're looking at Royal Range, which is, I don't know where it is. We're going to find out. So we're going to click New and Post. I don't like it when they put these things on here, but whatever. Oh, Nashville. So now we know right away it's in Nashville. So it's a, wait a minute, do I already have this one in here? Open it up. Go to, I have to fix this gap right here. That's annoying. Tennessee Gun Shops. What's this place called? Royal Range? No, I was thinking I got Nashville Armory. So Nashville Armory is a 5-star range, and Royal Range is a 5-star range. So that's a thing given to them by NSSF. I mean, I don't think it matters. You can have two of them next to each other. It's just odd that there's two in the same place. There's only 25, I think, total. All right. So anyway, we're just going to get rid of that one. We're going to this new one, so we can grab their name right there, Royal Range. Handy. Put it there just in case. Since I got their name, I'm going to click on this, and I'll save this whole image as Royal Range. Right, in my pile of things, and I can close that. And then I'm going to save this too, and call it Royal Range 2, because I got to put it next to the other one right there. Right? And then we got a whole bunch of stuff here. So 4,000 square foot. That's already cool. That's not the biggest, but that ain't nothing to sneeze at. That is not a little range. So hit enter, paste, notch that up a bit, move it over to the right. 15,000 square foot class, I don't know, 15,000 square foot multi-level structure, urban terrain area. So that's neat. So that's like a shoot house basically. So now I'm going to add another layer of bullet points and use that as my first bullet point. And that's pretty much my layout. Is I start with the name, I talk about how big it is, when it started, some bullet points, and then a little line. I'll make one of these little layout lines right there, and then the address and everything. So I know the website already. I can drop that under here. We know it's in Nashville, so I can go back to document, and I can say, I'm guessing it's a gun shop, right? Shooting range, modern, whatever. So it's also a shooting range, and it is in Tennessee, and it's indoor. I didn't put that in the last one. But category is one way to categorize them, obviously. It's category. Tagging is another categorizing. It's just different for whatever reason, and they're just treated differently, but they're effectively the same. It's now got a tag of Tennessee. It's got a tag of indoor range. It's got a tag of shooting range. So all these different things tag it or give it some characteristic elements that when it's in the database, it can be sorted by those elements, right? So now we got indoor range, and then I'm going to start putting 5-star because that's another way to rank them. But for now, I'm going to go to the image. We'll go grab that image from the thing. What was the name of this place? Royal Range. So it's going to be in the R's down here. But the way that they made me download that whole thing, where's the R's? Royal. They made me grab that whole thing. So I'm going to edit it. I already have a picture of the place, so I'm just going to sort of chop this out. And now I can crop that. And actually, I'm just going to save it as this, and that will replace what I had with just the square thing. But now I'm going to right-click and open with Photoshop, because that's the easiest way to do what we're about to do. We're about to do something that's easiest done in Photoshop. Photoshop costs like, I think it's costing me about 40 bucks a month. It's like 30 something, 36 bucks a month, thanks to Alan Anchor. But normally it would be like 50. Boom, one click though. And I did what I wanted to do, export. And I guess however many clicks that was, that's how many clicks it took me to remove the background from the circle. So now I can just minimize it so I don't have to deal with it. But now I have two things. I have the Royal Range. Where is it? R. I have the Royal Range over here. And if you'll notice, the blue highlight is disrupted by the white square that it's in. That's the JPEG. And I just created this one, which has no square around it because it's got a transparent background. And I like using that. The internet doesn't care, but I like using that on printing so that you're not printing a white box. When you try to get a printer to print a white box, you're just wasting everybody's time. So now we can move on to whatever other characteristics are interesting about this range. So they're telling us about their 5-star. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. They're indoor and outdoor. So we're going to put that in here as a characteristic. That cool situation. We got this shoot house and stuff, and then all this stuff going on. Wow, that is pretty cool. I'm shutting up about this one. So now I'm going to grab the phone number and the address, copy that, shove that underneath of the name right here. And I don't know what I tried to do. I tried to turn it all into that, so I'm putting it back into paragraphs and then backspace. I like to make the name bold and then shove this thing up one, and that's how I like to format the end of the post so that people can find the thing that we're pointing them to. We're not trying to capitalize on, we're not trying to steal hits from them. We're trying to find hits and shove people over to them. So we want to make it as easy as possible to get people over. But we do want to keep some information here. So it looks like we got 30 line. I think that's 31 lanes. That's not little. That's pretty big. Biggest, but it is pretty big. This will be the SMR part where I try to get rid of my stress by drinking. Oh, snap, you're saying that's a converted movie theater. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What is this? That's what happens when you put this on the big channel accidentally. Look at how many people. I got 8 people watching this. That's what happens. You get a bunch of yahoos. As soon as you get a giant bunch of people watching a show like this, you get yahoos. Sorry about that. All the grandmas that are watching. There's probably 7 grandmas and me watching. Oh no, look, I deleted that guy and it dropped my links down to 6. So that's what happens when you have one weirdo and like 3 other people watching, 3 grandmas. It takes your hits down to like 25%. Or your views down to like 25%. Let's see. So that was all of that. We got the, I don't know. I haven't been putting down what they're rated to, which I feel like I should have now. I really should have. because that would be a neat thing to click like a sort, sort by what caliber they can shoot up to. I haven't bothered with pricing. I never like pricing because it changes. And then I don't want to be the site out there saying it costs $20 for a rental. When you go there, it's 25, and now they have to explain why some website said it was $20. So I try to just use, data that's on their website, and then nothing like a price that would be, important. Something like their address or something like how many lanes they have. If you go there and it turns out they, remodeled or something, that's one thing. But if you go there and it, you expected to pay $10 and it costs 20, that's different. So anyway, I attempt to facilitate but not hinder, I guess, words. But yeah, that's pretty freaking neat. I don't know how they get that giant cool. Oh, look at all this. This is like the new thing now to make these little badge looking things. Where'd that picture come from? Oh, maybe this will tell us something.
Here at Royal Range, we take pride in doing things differently. Once you step foot through our doors, your family, which means being part of one of the most premier firearms facility in America. From the very beginning, the vision for Royal Range when it comes to facilities, training, products, education, and services. From the very beginning, the vision for Royal Range was to be one of the top firearm facility of its kind in not just our region, but in the country. Capable of hosting beginners, competition shooters, military, and law enforcement agencies alike. As a brand that believes in the defense heritage, hard work, and community, we took an abandoned movie theater and created a 5-star, state-of-the-art shooting range that is unparalleled in its cleanliness, technology, and offerings. Its safety and its foot special and boundaries.
All right, so yeah, that's definitely the one that took the movie theater. But when? When is the question, and they're not telling us. So we're gonna paste this and go look. We'll let the internet tell us. Let the internet tell us, and then I'm gonna go look for an about page because I guess I haven't looked for that yet. So they got one of these little hamburger menus over here. About. Ugh. You can't come about and it doesn't do anything. So click on the hamburger, click on about, and then you gotta click on stuff. I don't care about what you do. I want to know how long you've been there. Let's see. Which offers 3 modern indoor shooting ranges. So 3 modern indoor shooting ranges. Consisting of a 15-yard pistol bay, a 57-yard rifle bay. So we're going to go like this. That and get rid of that. And then rated up to 50, the facility, 15,000 feet square, blah, blah, blah. Courses, rating, 5-star, mission, range, blah, 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 blah. I always look at the edges because sometimes they'll say like since, some number or whatever, but they didn't. So we're going to go find out that they might be this old, maybe. Wayback doesn't like me because I don't pay him. So retail store is now open. So that was in 15. So we're going to say 15. What word that is, but it will now be opened in 15. We'll now get over to the right, and we're going to make that the word in and not kin, and then up. Go to document. I also make it so that the post was created in the year that the place opened. And what that means is then when the posts get sorted in the website structure in the database, they're listed in an appropriate order in the appropriate year. Range open. So it's as if to the computer, I wrote this post that I'm writing right now. It's as if I wrote this in 2015, 5 years ago, because robots are stupid and we can manipulate them. So that's the wrong thing. I wanted to put a picture in there. So remove that and grab image, and then I'll go to the place and grab a picture of the thing and and jam it into the other place. Because that certainly is a cool looking range. And I go through Nashville, so I am going to this range one day because that looks cool. All right, so publish. And now we have, let's see, that is a gun shop, right? Yeah, that's got to be a gun shop too. Offering firearms, ammunition, rentals, yes. And they have rentals. So rental in there and update. And see, this thing made it look like it was indoor and outdoor. So what was I clicking on before? I clicked on the facility. What is all this about? Is this what it looks like inside? Well, that's just what it looks like inside. That's why they took apart the movie theaters and turned them all into different bays, I guess. I thought that was a picture of outdoors. So, okay, whatever. That's cool. Interesting. I wonder if it's like the movie theater where if you shoot on the range and then act like you're going to the bathroom, then you could just go back and shoot on the range again. Am I including full auto rental as a category? I think it's a tag somewhere. I think I had full auto as one. But the thing is, this is a second iteration of this concept. I did this originally on some different sites that were, well, that have existed since like the early 2000s. So whenever I started going to Vegas and experiencing those rental sites, I added machine gun rental specifically because while some rental ranges will have a machine gun, like those businesses were literally just there to rent machine guns, right? So I did have that there. I don't think I carried that over because I don't see full auto. Because the thing is, after I did it, I almost immediately regretted it because it's just it's like a total non-gun thing to type in as like a full auto rental. It just was dumb. I figured having it rental is enough, and then having full auto as another characteristic was just a better way to do it. So anyway, that's probably too much info on why I don't have it in there right now. But no, this isn't perfect. I only started adding the ranges the other day. So the structure of the site isn't really set up for being a great guide yet. It's really just a list. It's not a useful guide. It's just a list. All right, so now we're getting some more in there. And what was this last one? The one was that goofy one up here. Oh, there's theirs. I like looking at this every once in a while because how often you get to see like a list that's chronological of the logos. And while some of them don't really matter because you can tell like, you know, they're just not trying, it is kind of neat. You can see sort of trends. Typically the trends are like what the production values are of the day, like what they can print on a t-shirt or what they can make into a coffee cup or something. So things tend to be kind of shittier and get more evolved as you can print better, but not always. And then for a minute there on when the internet started, everything got super elaborate and they figured out that that was, you know, messing with them because you couldn't print everything you could put on the internet. And then everything kind of came back again. And now it's getting to be like this again. Like, I don't know, again, it's sort of looking like, I don't know, some sort of weird 20s, 30s type of hipster. There's some hipster shit in there. Let's see. Looks like maybe they added onto the back of the theater. I would say so until you look at that movie. Wherever that movie was when they went up in the air, there was definitely not much, at least not something huge added on. So history and our facility. I think it was just watching the video right on the main page. Wasn't it? Or was it this video? Where was that video I was watching? The About Us video? Oh, already on that page. Nope. Where did the video at? How many pages was I looking at? Oh, this one.
Here in what means
Wasn't this one crazy? Didn't we just see a video of them rising? Yeah, there it is.
with our guest safety and experience in mind.
Don't get
Royal
scared.
Range is an all-inclusive.
No, I think this is how that was originally laid out, right? You walk in, you buy your popcorn and stuff, and then there's like one hallway, I'm guessing. And then there's movie theaters each way. So your big fancy movie theaters for more people, your widescreen maybe, and then like all the shitty movies go to the end there. That's what I'm thinking. But it's hard to say because they probably, if nothing else, redid the roof, after construction if they did add stuff on. But it doesn't look like any weird scars around there or nothing. How many people are worried that if someone shoots something like a 45 ACP, it's going to go right through this wall and all these trees and probably take out one of these trucks full of fuel or something like that? That's what I'm worried about. And this looks too much like a school bus parked right next to the building. I'm worried about that too now.
It's a 40,000 square foot indoor platform, complete with 3 ranges, a 1,500 square foot multi.
You want to know how you can not impress me at all? Have a bunch of quote unquote cops that look like their gear came off of the rack next to them and not ever been touched like to dirt or any kind of anything that even had dust on it.
1,500 square foot multi-level training house, classroom, private event room.
They should have woke this guy up.
Classroom.
This guy's sitting here sleeping. Hey, we're filming a commercial for this place. You're on duty.
Event room and gunsmithing shop.
You're on duty and you're getting paid to learn about guns.
But what makes Royal Range special isn't just the building, it's the people in it who come to work every day with a purpose and a passion to serve our community.
Really? Because what I was told is
to serve our community. We exist to read.
Wait, hold on.
To serve.
Nope. Look at this guy. What kind of passion can he have with his hand in his pocket?
To serve our community. We exist. Royal Range experience.
Looks pretty cool though. That's definitely a good idea. So we've seen one that was this no. It's right at the top here. Right at the top here. One of these. Shit, which one is it? It's one of those top ones, I thought. We seen one of these that, oh no, it's not. It's this one. This one here is made out of a golf course made in 1964 with a lodge that was made in the lodge was made in 1964, converted into a shooting range in 2009, or movie theater turned into a shooting range in 2015. I'm still probably going to go with the golf course because there's more outside stuff to do. But it would be cool to shove that movie theater type business onto the golf course one. All right, next up is Granite State. So Granite State Indoor Range and Gun Shop. Copy that. New post. Paste that there. Go over to that logo. Save image as. Use that same name. Close that window. And blah, blah, blah. Established 2014. It's right there. So that's the first thing I look for. And I usually just mimic whatever they put. So like these people put established. I'll put that. If they put open, I'll put that too sometimes. So since I didn't type anything, I can still paste. Yes, I can also come in here and grab that image since it's easy to grab. Granite State. Now that's up there. What is Granite State? New Hampshire. All right, so New Hampshire. I guess they have to have something in New Hampshire. And then it looks like it's a gun shop too to me, but I guess we'll verify. shooting range. And all that's in capital, so I don't want to take any of that. Look at all these icons. Icons are a trend. They're trending. Grand Estate, we are proud to offer the highest standards of safety. That's probably a good idea. This guy, Grand Estate, blah, 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 memberships, blah, blah, blah. What's that, peanut butter sandwich? Oh, no, that's a purple heart. Looked like a peanut butter sandwich. I must be hungry. 15 state-of-the-art shooting lanes. So I'm just going to go start right ahead and type in. Oh, I'm not going to type in shit. I'm guessing they're going to have stuff listed here in a second. I don't know what this is. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like that they're facilitating any of this business with lines. But what are you going to do? That's going to be a new thing, I guess. So that's nothing else I'm going to get off the main page. So I'm going to have to go to find a contact us. That's weird. That's super weird. I guess they consider this as all they're going to give you for an address on the main page of their website. To me, bad design. Think twice about your designers next time, because that's bad design. Humans, number one, ain't going to find that. So you've just alienated all the humans. It's all in capitals. So you've pissed off people like me that get pissed off by shit like that. And the internet isn't going to see your address. So you've effectively erased yourself from the internet. They get free web critique from me if they listen to this. They don't even have it about us. I'm about to clap my hands and wipe my hands of this whole place. Oh, look at this. This Qwarking guy is this some sort of a midstream Qwark, like some kind of live Qwark of my show on your show? Let's see how it is. But it looks like we're wailing on the 2A patch. I can't find it about us on this place. It's driving me nuts. Look at all this stuff. All of this. Somebody's like, here's what you need. Here's all the pages you need on your website. Oh, you need a whole page for that. Oh, you need a whole page for that. How about this? Oh, you need a whole page for that. How about just skill building? You need a whole page for that. How about an about us page? Nope. No. How about a page for a stupid virus? Yeah. How about a whole page for that? How about our range? Like, tell people about us. Nah, no. So I don't understand this at all. If I'm a tourist visiting the U.S., what the hell happens in New Hampshire? Oh, it's because they're touching Canada. That's what happens when you touch Canada, stuff like this. You know what? This is horrible web design. I can't deal with it. I can't even copy and paste their address, for crying out loud. That's not even gun stuff. That's just basic stuff. They don't even have a contact us page. Yeah, I'm sorry. Ugh. This is horrible. I'm going to have to, look at what I'm going to have to do. I am going to have to copy that into a browser and then paste it and then copy it from over here somewhere where it's lowercase. That's unreasonable. Oh, it's not even right. Look, if you go, no, I can't even, I'm not doing two different pieces. This is ridiculous. This is asinine. I feel like back in the 1990s, for crying out loud. Ugh, look how many times I got to click and stuff. This is horrible. This is ridiculous. This is why we don't get paid enough to do the kind of stuff we do. This is kind of horrible drudgery we got to deal with. I don't even know what's going on with this page. They don't even have their phone number. Am I crazy? Or is there no phone number listed on this webpage? This is how I feel bad for webpage people. I really feel bad that they paid somebody for this. This has to be somebody's like child or something. Like, nobody wants to hire Stephanie. Let's let her make our website. All right. Stephanie. All right, well, I'm done. I guess they're going to tell us about their range. There's probably like every single item is going to be on its own separate page or something. 15, state-of-the-art shooting range, greatly lit. All right. So I'm going to get this, but guess what? Taking rid of that because I don't believe they're state-of-the-art. Your website ain't state-of-the-art. We are located in Hudson. They don't even spell out New Hampshire, but you better hope I already have New Hampshire in here. 360-degree target, whatever. New England's only. Seriously? Why don't you go check out like 3 other ranges I can think of that I think are technically New England that have 360-degree target retrieval. So their website is dated. I'm not going to challenge it because it could have been accurate in the past, but it's certainly inaccurate now. And I'm done. This site, it's getting linked because that's what I'm here for. But I will go talk shit about this site any day of the week. Any day of the week. They got a bad website there. Established 2014. I'm going to change that to 14. Change that to that and 1. And you know what would be cool is if there was some sort of like, oh, what's the word? Like a Habitat for Humanity or websites. So like websites for humanity, where decent website designers who are honest and ethical would put together websites and spare the rest of us from that kind of experience. Something like what Jimmy Carter should do that. Maybe Al Gore could do it, right? That was his thing. He built the internet. Maybe now he can clean it up and make it ethical. So that was not shooting schools. That was shooting ranges. And now let's go see if, what was the name of that place? I almost forgot. I want to put it on my mind immediately. Granite State. Now I don't even want to go there. Actually, it looked kind of neat. Let's see. Maybe just type it out. It'll be faster than spending 5 minutes. Nah, that's how I find things on the internet. That's how I surf. Plus, it gives me 5 minutes to bitch about it. You think anybody's going to watch this and ever make that mistake on their website? Not put their damn address with regular case? I hope not. Not unless you expect me to look at your website online live and not talk about it for shit for a while. Uh-oh. Closed down in January of this year? That's not good. Closed down for a week or closed down for good? Because there's a difference. But it would suck if it closed down for good. I didn't even get a chance to go there yet. Hopefully somebody else will pick it up and keep going because it seems like a neat idea. On the other hand, well, okay, there's good ideas and then there's poorly managed ideas. I guess that's what I'm hoping it's a good idea that was poorly managed, if that's the case, as opposed to somebody who was super competent and was able to keep something afloat, even if it was a bad idea, because I'm hoping it was a good idea. Taking a golf course and turning it into a range, that's awesome. Let's go look at the patch batch. Seeing as Clover's bragging about it over here. We got it over here. Boom. So there it is. Last time we looked, it was at 12,297. What really matters is 246 people were involved. Now, 264. So we flipped those around and it went to 13,247. 131. So even 1% more than when Clover was talking about it later or earlier. Very cool. Oh, I don't go to Facebook, so that's their problem. We're shoving it on Facebook where no one goes. So for three people, I think. 3 people go to Facebook. So. Manchester. They're already starting out on the wrong foot because, oh no, they got a, so we're going to go back here and grab, debating whether I want to grab the whole thing. I guess I'll grab the whole thing. And then I'm going to go over here and post and paste, but I know I have to immediately delete. So that's annoying. So I can go over here and do one of these deals, but I might have just wasted time there. We'll see. All right, so next we got a phone number. That's handy right there at the top of the page. In plain old text, I hit enter, so that becomes its own block. This is a good time since now I'll get a little plus sign to make a little thingy like that, and then jam it up one. All right, and what's going on here? gunsnh.com. All right, I guess I'm okay with that. Kind of okay with it. Let's see. So we don't have an address yet. Where's the address? Where's the address? You kidding me? We're going to do the same problem again. No address on their main page again. I'm going to say it's not like these are the only 2 sites I've ever been to like that. It's happening more and more because nobody gives a shit about proper web design, ethical, useful, good web design anymore. So I'm going to grab that and I'm going to grab that and paste. See, I wasted my time with that Manchester before. I knew it as soon as I did it that I wasted my time. Now we'll do that and that. Oh, that and that. Okay. Now we can grab the weirdest URL ever, gunsnh.com. I would take it too. It's cool, but it's weird. So now we'll go over here and we'll add a paragraph and try to figure out when they were created. Boom, an about page because they're useful. When Jake was 5 years old, this is an about page for real. Blah, blah, blah. 22 revolver with his granddad. Obviously, this is already a good shop. At 18, expert rifle pistol from the Marine Corps. She met a Marine. Perfect storm. Blah, blah, blah. Hot pink Glock 19. Pretty good. I mean, you definitely know all about them, except for when they started their business. So here it says 2020. That don't help us at all. So we're going to have to go back and let the internet tell us, right? Because the internet doesn't waste their time. Doesn't waste their time lying to us all the time and telling us about business we don't care about. They just give us the facts. Oh, right on. I didn't throw the link out there in a while.
Yeah, I had to scroll up. It's all good.
So what about you? I can't stand it when they don't have their address written on the front page of a website, especially a business. I mean, if it's something, doesn't matter, who cares? But if it's a business, like, what are you doing? Come on. And who would let someone pay for something that doesn't have their address? That reminds me of the old Flash days. Like, oh, you don't want any writing on your website. Let me do the whole thing as a cartoon.
Right. Is it not anywhere? Even if you scroll down, it's not there?
Well, this one isn't. The other one, well, this one is actually the same way. But yeah, that one was literally, it was nothing. This one at least says Manchester firing line at the bottom, but the other one didn't have anything. It just scrolled down to nothing.
Yeah,
Which just
it needs to be.
His kid doing it.
Well, I'm okay with it being at the bottom, but
no, at the bottom it has to be there also.
You know,
but yeah, that's just like I don't know.
yeah.
That's like
Or
not
even,
signing an email or something. You can do it. There's no law, but
You know,
people don't know your email's over. You know.
Well, in modern times, or fairly modern times, I always like doing a Google map at the bottom, where you could click on it and it'll literally bring up a map.
Oh yeah, especially if you got a place that people are going to go to, then yeah, exactly. Like if you're not doing that, what are you doing? What are you even doing? Because everybody's going to be on their phone looking for you.
Yep.
Anyhow, so yeah, I posted a thing earlier on the Instagram about the, just exploring shooting ranges.
Mm-hmm.
And these are just I think 4 of them. This might be the 4th one, the last one that I'm adding. So I'm still not sure. Is it New Hampshire? Okay, so New Hampshire, and which is kind of cool. I didn't have anything for New Hampshire. So, if I would have put on there, does anybody know a range in New Hampshire? What are the odds I would have gotten any, right? And then I just said, hey, does anybody know any ranges? And I got 2 New Hampshire. So that's pretty cool. Let's see. So I also wanted to, what was I missing? I got their address and everything now. I just need to grab an image. So anyhow, the Indiegogo, it seems like it has done its business. It's gone, well, every time I click on it, right?
Oh yeah, it's still clicking up steadily. So it was, a lot of pressure's off at this point. That's for sure. No, it's great when and pretty good timing too. I talked with Jared about that earlier because I talked with him and it was really close to 100%. I talked to him. It was about 91, 97%, somewhere in the 90s, right? And I was like, oh, bad. I was like, it's no. I said, if it would, I will be surprised. Which obviously that came true. But I told him, I said, I'd be surprised if we're not over 100% by midnight tonight. And we were. I mean, we were. Good Lord, it's just now 20 minutes after here. You know what I mean? So it's what, 131%. So we were well past 100% at midnight. But he was talking about how he wished. He's like, oh, I meant to do it earlier, and put out a video and do this or do that. And I was like, no, dude. I said it actually worked out pretty good, because we want good momentum going into the last couple of days. That way we can push over the goal. right? Because we have stretch goals and all this other stuff going on.
Well, that's the thing. If it would barely, like, if it would fund out, like at the last hours, like that's okay. I guess it funds, right? But yeah, funding days ahead is nice. Now, if it funds,
Well, too
3
far
days
ahead. But my
right? If
my take on this, and this is what I told Jared, was too far ahead, right? If it had funded like a week ago, right, there would
or a
be some
week, yeah,
there would be
yeah.
some complacency. There still wouldn't be any urgency, right? So we're over, but we've only got 3 days, right? So it's like, let's really squeeze the most we can get out of these last 3 days. Now all the pressure's off. It's a done deal. But now we've only got 3 days left. We can really push. Whereas if we had 7 days that it was funded, I mean, how much are we really going to push, for 7 days, right? It's going to get tiring. People have things to do, so forth, so on. So,
Well, exactly, and for all those things. So, yeah, this is actually a pretty decent time. Now, if it would have been, I guess there's no way. There's different ways that these things can go. If it would have been like amazing participation and it was destined to be like $1 million or something, then obviously funding in the first couple of days or weeks or whatever moments, and then having continuous growth would be great. But whatever. That's a fluke. That's not something you design for. That's something you prepare for, but you design for more realistic expectations. And
right.
anyway, like you're saying, like normally people go, okay, I'm doing this because I want to support a project or help them achieve the goal. The goal's been achieved. I'm done. I'm walking away. Like that's mission accomplished. Unless it's something where, and it wasn't really set up to be, do this and then and then and then and then and even better and more and more. It wasn't really set up to encourage that.
Right.
So yeah, so I think as far as things go, like I think ideally a week ago, like maybe at the beginning of the week, if it would have funded with a lot of momentum, that'd have been great because that would give us like a full week. But yeah, we'll definitely achieve more than just the whatever you call like the threshold, whatever the original piece would be.
Yeah.
Or was going to be.
Yeah, we're pushing, getting into that second tier of stretch goal at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Like we already hit the first one.
Yeah.
And this next one's 15, I guess. So it's
yeah, but that's not that far away. That's not that far away. Yeah.
Pretty confident at this pace that it would hit that. So yeah. Pretty now it's oh crap.
What is it compared to last year?
Well, it's different. I mean, it's if patches cost $200, let's say.
Well, no, I just meant the project as far as the money raised on the project.
I haven't. I guess I can look, but I haven't actually compared them. But I guess what I'm saying is I don't know because let's say that this year raises 13 and it costs 12, but last year it raised 12 and it cost 9. Right? That would be different because it's apples and oranges or whatever the word is.
Oh yeah,
so, yeah. But as far as
I'm looking now at 2A patch 2019, and we're already over at this point.
Well, I know we're over money wise, but what about backers? Like that's the was and say that's probably more an indication.
I could look that up. Hang on a sec. Good look.
Because this year, I think it still tells you, but I think last year was like 2 something, and this year it's 260. So we're still in near.
Let me look it up. So the 2019, and again, you're right. This is not factoring in cost increases or anything else. But last year was 12,760 at 262 backers. So we're ahead.
We're right about the same. So that means that since we don't have the same people involved, it's more than likely we don't have the same backers involved. Mm-hmm. I've told last year's backers, but I haven't told them that, hey, this is a done deal. And if you'd like to get yours, because there's a big difference between, hey, make this happen and grab yours. Because you've been saying, this is a good deal. You're getting 12 patches at $5 each. You're not getting that in many places. So now that it's not like maybe in October you might, kind of a gamble. Now it is, if you do want to get in on this, you only have 3 days left, and then you're not getting in on it again. Like if these are going to happen, if you want them, you only have 3 days. So that's a whole different dynamic.
Well, once it funded, I went back and got a second set. And the reason I did that is because I was thinking about that to start with, right?
You're going to start showing them. You're showing them. I know what you learned in that chat. Before you started qwark.
Yeah, I mean, we taught everybody how to shill, sure. But no, Indiegogo, you buy into the campaign, and if it hasn't funded, right, they take your money. And then if it doesn't happen, they refund it. And I hate it when people take money and refund shit. I hate that. So when it funded, I'm like, okay, I'll go ahead and drop. I got $57 in that bank
Well, in
account
other
or
words,
something.
you planned on taking more or buying more anyway. It's just that you didn't want to waste your time if it was just going to flip flop your money for no reason, wasting
Right.
$100.
Right. I was waiting. I was going to wait until they got closer. And if it took me, took my one, if we were within 2 or 3 backers, in the last hour, then I would buy one, But yeah, yeah. So I went ahead and picked one up because it's a done deal. And I think it's going to be great, man. We talk about the support of these organizations, and then ultimately that's what it's about. And then on our end, as the people involved with this, it's about being able to work together, which there has been some of that going on behind the scenes for those that are unaware. But I mean, my goodness, if we look at the caliber of patches this year, right? We're talking 3 or 4 at least that have never made a patch before. This is their inaugural. That's a big deal, right?
Yeah.
So, the collectability, when we look at the materialistic value of this, which, I don't want to harp on that because, I want people to support for the 2A effort and to help out, of course, but that's still a part of the game. It's a materialistic issue. And, you want something that you want to be able to say that I supported these, but look what I got, right? I got Liberty Doll's very first patch. I got Jared's very first patch. How cool is that?
Yeah. And so somebody doing their first patch is one thing, right? Because anybody can say like, oh, I got one of their first batches of patches, right? But since there's the collectible 100 or whatever with the cards, because whenever that exists, there's going to be somebody who values that and keeps the collection together, right? Even if just one person keeps the collection together out of the 100, then that sets it apart. Now it's a set of, it's a part of something that's got, what's the word, like, what's the word?
Sure. The collective is worth more than the individuals is what you're.
Well, but I'm saying is, so now that you've got one that is actually part of that, that's different than just like, oh, this is the first time we made a red one.
Right.
Like technically we never made a red one before, but like this is an official documented thing where certain people are going to be over here understanding and giving value to that set. Sort of like Yankees Kool-Aid, right? Last year, if you got one of the sets, well, then you got a Yankee Kool-Aid. But if you just have a Kool-Aid from somewhere else, it's got some value because there's no other way to get a Kool-Aid, and because it's in that list, like it does exist. People know that it exists. It's not like an unobtainium thing. So anyway, I think it's neat that we're giving not only everybody their first patches, but they're also in on the collectible aspect of it.
Yeah, it's like in the back in the days when I collected sports cards, right? You've got individual cards like the Nolan Ryan or the whatever, right? And like in that set, I mean, those cards are the most valuable cards of the set, but then it's cool to also have the set. You know what I mean? It's like I don't just have the good cards in the set. I've got the whole freaking thing here, right?
And with that, I'm going to leave the link and then let's quit talking about it. We're going to have all day Saturday to talk about it and then forever. But Walt jumped in and I wasn't really paying that much attention. I saw some of the end of it. But what was the whole deal with Yankees? Oh, you slapping Yankee around or something today? What was the deal?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, he opened an invite for criticism. So I said, well, shoot, I know a lot of guys that are upset. I'll try to articulate it in a way that's not too asshole-ish and that is hopefully, a little productive for people to listen to. And Yankee did the open invite, and I said, you know what, I know one of your friends. I know G Webs. So I know G. So why not? Let's talk. And he hit me back and was a man of his word and had that discussion. So it was pretty cool. But yeah, I was mostly just talking to Yankee about attacking ideas over people because he has a habit of kind of going for the throat and swinging and speaking what's on his mind. There's a lot of good traits with that, but there's also some downsides for some other things. So that was what I tried to, center my focus on there. But it was fun. It was nice to meet Yankee. I'd do it again in a heartbeat and talk about normal stuff and not just criticize him too. So, but yeah, it was fun.
Yankee's one of those. I don't know I don't know when, but hey, what's up, Walt? I don't know when G Webs will
going?
get back. I think he had to step away, but yeah, Yankee's one of them guys that he often. It's like he goes. I don't know how to put this. I don't want to say he goes a step too far, but it's one of them things. You know how when you're trying to Jew with somebody, right? You're trying to barter,
Mhm.
and so one person is going to give this extreme high. Like I have something for sale and I want a certain amount of money. So what I'm going to tell you when you say, "What do you want for that?" I'm going to give you some just stupid number, right?
Yeah.
Because what I want is below that. Yankee has that same effect. He like overblows everything, and that's not probably not the right terminology, but he goes 3 levels above what he's trying to accomplish all the time. And for me, I don't understand that. That's his approach, and that's the way he works, and I don't understand it. But I mean, I do understand it from a concept. I don't I couldn't do that, I don't think. But you know for him in the past with certain things has worked. He's like, okay, I need to spark this conversation. Nobody's having this conversation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this conversation, I'm going to roll it into all this other drama and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, hopefully the drama will all fade away and people are actually talking about what we need to talk about.
Yeah, and I don't doubt that overall he has good intentions, and I think I made that fairly clear in our because we went for about an hour, right? And so there's a lot of stuff. He is hyperbolic for sure, where he will go over the top, like exactly like you said.
Great word.
That's part of his style.
Yeah, great word. Yeah,
totally part of his style. And I agree with that. Like that's part of what makes him kind of interesting, or like a novelty to watch, right? He has a whole brand and a whole personality, and his channel is consistent as far as his style and how he goes.
Oh,
about
it's
things.
unique for sure.
It's very unique.
Yeah.
Sometimes I cringe like crazy when I listen to the intros, and sometimes it doesn't bother me as much. But either way, I watch his videos. Sometimes I get something good out of them. Sometimes I disagree with them, and that's anyone, right? And
sure, yeah.
And so I'm not worried about all the niche disagreements I could possibly be having with Yankee. I think it was mostly just in the wake of Mr. Guns and Gear. Some comments that I haven't personally verified. I heard there was some business like Colion Nor back in the day, or I've heard through the grapevine, and Yankee said some stuff about IV8888, and a whole bunch of others.
Yeah.
So it's like I know he's crossed people in the past, and I don't know all the details and who's right and who's wrong. But I think that it would strengthen his message to focus more on the ideas. Or if you're going to argue someone's a liar, prove that they're a liar, right? Like go through and demonstrate that they knew better, demonstrate that they told someone else something else, like go through the due diligence to call someone a liar.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I'm about. Like, just make sure you know.
Yeah, and I could give you an example of one thing. I totally get it. I could give you one thing that again, it's the way he presents, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to understand that it's just like with anybody else, with any other channel or anything else you watch, right? When you turn on Fox News, it's probably going to have a right slant. When you turn on CNN, it's going to have a left slant. When you turn on Yankee, you're getting Yankee style,
Yeah.
And so one of the things he mentioned the other night on the chat, he was talking about active self-protection. And he was talking about some stuff that had come up through Gun Rights Policy Conference last year, which he was there. But what he was talking about come up from AmCon, which happens before Gun Rights Policy Conference, and he wasn't even there for that. So everything he was ragging on from active self-protection happened, but his version of it is coming from hearsay. He wasn't there. I was in the room, and it happened. It totally happened. But, it's one of the things, and then so that's kind of what irks me about it a little bit is that he gets on to Mr. Guns and Gear and Jared and these people, I'm not singling out Yankee for anything because talking about, just the way it's done is if you're not there and you're not witnessing the event or what's going on, right? Whether you're not in the city, you're not in the state, you're not at that venue or whatever, then you're getting that information secondhand from whatever source it might be. And it may be a trusted source to you, but you're still getting that information secondhand, right?
Yeah.
And so in one podcast, he can say something about, or one setting, he can say something about active self-protection, whatever you say it. And he's gotten that from hearsay. And then the second, he can dog on somebody because they got some information that was hearsay. So it's like we can't have it both ways. I mean, everybody needs to own up, and if they weren't in the room, they need to admit that right up front. And I think that the guys that are giving this news, it irks me to no end. And this is in defense of Yankee, and I completely get his frustration. Is it irks me to no end when I have people that live outside of Texas tell me what the hell is going on in Texas.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Shut up. You're not here. You're listening to somebody from up north in one of the Yankee states. You know, you're not here. You don't know what's going on the ground. You don't know the sentiment of the people. You don't know the makeup of our Senate and House and all this other stuff. So shut up.
Yeah.
You know, I don't tell you what's going on in your state because I don't live there. I'm not seeing the Senate. I'm not seeing all those indicators. I don't keep up with the politics of your state. I keep up with what you'll tell me if you put that information out and you go, hey, I live in whatever it is, Illinois, right? And our Senate is wanting to do this, and there's this bill in Illinois. I'll keep up with that stuff, but I don't keep up with the political makeup and goings on and the voting blocks and all that kind of crap. Why? I don't live there. It's not, nobody can possibly do that with 50 states, right?
Yeah. And I'm with you on that. Cause like, in California over here, right? You guys already know the memes and the tropes of California, and yeah, California is not as bad as anyone makes it out to be, unless you're maybe looking at gun rights and homelessness. And like people, like the poop in San Francisco streets is real. The homelessness problem is real. Decriminalizing everything so that nobody's getting everything is cite and release is real.
Mm-hmm.
Law-abiding gun owners getting screwed is real. Like there's a bunch of stuff that is real that people do know. But also, you have people out here in California who refuse to comply with gun laws all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And you have people that are refusing to comply, not just with deciding to have a pistol grip on something or a detachable mag here and there. You have people who are full on not complying out here. You have an underground movement that does not talk about it online. And that's a very real part of the gun culture out here, for better or worse. Yeah. And the ATF tries to infiltrate groups like that all the time, right? And they try to figure it out. And then DOJ tries to infiltrate those groups and figure it out. But yeah, and to that point, I don't want to be, I'm not attacking, I wanted to be really clear that I wasn't attacking Yankee's motives. I wasn't attacking who Yankee was as a person, just the style in which he argues. Because I align with Yankee on a lot of ideology. I think thin blue line stickers or thin blue line flags and libertarian flags, like the Gadsden, are pretty incompatible. It's difficult for you to be consistent and fly both of those.
Right.
I think that what he's generally trying to do with raising awareness on things that he's passionate about and speaking his mind, I generally agree that those are good things. But where we were starting to disagree, and what I realized with it, and I threw this out at the end of the podcast kind of, but I just kind of said it almost under my breath. But I was like, if I got a math problem wrong, would you call me a liar? Because basically, to Yankee, it seemed like someone was a liar if I can justify that they were wrong, and I feel like they should have known better. So
they said something. I think he was saying if they say something false in front of you, then they're a liar. But you were like, well, if I do a math problem incorrect in front of you, am I a liar, or is there intent? You didn't get to say that.
Yeah, and that was where I needed to kind of connect it, and I was realizing that and this was one of those things where it's just cultural differences.
The end where he was cutting it off and he was saying, okay, we're ending and we're whatever. He was wrapping up.
Yeah, and that's all good. I take him at his word. I think he's a stand-up guy. He has opinions I disagree with, right? And so I try to focus on that. What I thought was interesting was that it felt like at several points during that debate, I would kind of throw something out there, he would deny it, and then about 4 minutes later, he'd come around to it and be like, "Oh yeah, okay," And that's something people do a lot. That's, to me, when I see that, it's typically an emotional kind of defense mechanism we have to new information or opposing arguments coming in from somebody. It's kind of a normal thing. Mm-hmm. And I don't knock him for that, because everybody has those. Everybody has obstacles to listening. Everybody has obstacles to processing information.
Well, it's defensive posturing, right?
Yeah, and it's like I get it, and the fact that we made progress, the fact that he was willing to have that discussion, to me, made that a win, like a net win for everybody involved.
Right.
And it speaks really highly to his character as well. I know people rag on him a lot online. A lot of the communities I run through, like the guns and gear stuff, I get it, but
right.
but he was he was trying to do what he thought was right. And I'm not going to shit on someone for doing that, even if I disagree with them. I'm not going to shit on someone for doing what they think is the right thing to do. So I'm cool with it.
So, you obviously went on, and I've been on with Yankee, never in a debating, setting, but, I've been in many a live chat before and been on his shows before, usually a wrestling show or something. But, so Yankee doesn't intimidate me at all. And very few people do intimidate me. I don't. Especially, I talk about this all the time with people out there, and I don't care if I ever blow up to be 10 million subscribers. I hope people are never intimidated by me, because what I'm doing, anybody else can turn on a camera essentially and do. And I think that there's this stigma that comes with some online personalities that people don't realize they're a real person, and see them more as a celebrity. But I don't get starstruck by celebrities or anything either, right? They're just people that went down a different path, is the way I view that. And so what I'm getting at is, a lot of these times he gets frustrated, and he gets frustrated a lot of times, it seems, that people aren't willing to dialogue like you did and have that conversation. But what I feel is that he intimidates a lot of people. He doesn't me, but I think he's intimidating to a lot of people. And part of that is Yankee is not stupid by any stretch of the imagination, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he's not an idiot. I'll put it that way. He's not an idiot. He's not he's not Noam Chomsky over there. He doesn't pretend to be, right? He's not a Jordan Peterson, Noam Chomsky, the Thomas Sowell type, right? That's not who he is. But he's got a bit of common sense, right? And he's been around the block, and he knows the community, he knows the scene. He's thought a lot about it, right? And so, like, you can't disrespect. I don't think it's right to disrespect someone's experience in that regard. And I definitely didn't want to come off that way, and I didn't want to just like attack him and be like, oh, well, you said this about someone and it was completely unjustified, and then you had to apologize. Like, that would have been so unproductive.
Were you at all intimidated?
I had, because that was the biggest live stream I've ever done in my life. That was the biggest live performance.
So was it intimidation? Was it intimidation because of the live stream or because of Yankee though?
Yeah, I had some butterflies like a little bit before, like when you said we were going on, because I'm like, man, I'm like 200 subscribers. Like I have no clue what I'm doing. Like I'm figuring it out,
Stepping in a bear trap. Yeah.
Now I'm in the big leagues, like talking to Yankee for an hour. Like, this is going to be interesting. So,
but Yankee once you were in there though, he didn't make you feel that way though, did he?
No, when I was watching the live stream, like what I did was, I just prepared some quick notes on like my talking points, and then I would keep notes on kind of just what was being said, just so I could kind of come back to it, not in like a here's every single meticulous counter argument, just like, hey, here's an interesting point I want to double back to. And so, yeah, it wasn't so much that he was intimidating. It was more just like, oh crap, I see like, 1,500 people in a live stream right now, and they're saying that I'm a fat boy that eats too many Cheetos, which is true. I do like Cheetos.
Right.
So it was like the first time I got like straight internet roasted, like I got the shit post comments and all that.
That's his audience though, man.
Yeah.
And if anybody has ever jumped in a live chat with him, that audience, there's 1,000 different weird conversations going on at any given time in his audience. It's the most, it's the weirdest, one of the weirdest audiences on the internet.
You can get up in front of a on stage with the Rolling Stones and be in front of a bunch of people that could give a crap because you're not the Rolling Stones, and you can get up on stage with like 37 interested people because they care about what you're talking about, at the town meeting that weekend, and they can both have the same amount of significance, right? Like numbers don't mean nothing. Numbers don't mean nothing when it's just a bunch of people who are looking to be casually entertained. And if their casual entertaining is who cares what, it doesn't matter because they're not there to listen to what the conversation is, but
Yeah.
not disregarding with whatever a live chat might be, whatever the percentage is, even if it's 10%, that's still going to be like 80 people that are actually interested, that are willing to wade through the 500 weirdos that are just there to,
Yep.
anonymously.
Yeah.
What
And
I
yeah.
enjoyed about tonight, what little I got to watch, and it's so different. The what I watched tonight was that's what I like. That's where I like to see Yankee. I mean, I know he's been in the lobby chats.
You talking about the parts where I was on his chat, or are you talking about this
No,
chat?
I'm talking about when he's with people that he doesn't really know. I mean, when it's you and Matt, y'all podcasted together forever, right? So it's a whole different dynamic there. When he's got new people that he brings in, it's just he really shines. He really.
You think I'm shilling? You just call me a shill?
You're a shill for Yankee. You're a shill for Yankee. Yes, I'll say it. I don't mind. No,
Yeah,
I'm talking about. I ain't
that,
talking about you, G. Quit making it about you. I'm making it about talking about Yankee.
G's totally getting that big Yankee money, just
yeah, right. But no, I mean he just and I guess it's different. It may be because of that defensive posture, Walt, you talked about, but
yeah.
It's just when he's got other people, he's been on other panels and stuff. I've watched him there too, and he just shines, man. He's just it gives you a whole different perspective when you bring people in. I wish more people would take him up on his offer and go in and talk with him.
I'll do it I'll do it pretty much every time I can. Like anytime that I can do like the cast here, like right now I've had school. So like my uploads and everything have been slowed down because just summer classes, they move fast and it's upper division level work. So like I dropped an upload recently that was like a script I've been working on for a while. And I was just like, well, I got it on the back burner. Let's do it because I need to put something out. Because, I've got other things in life I got to get to as well that, take priority sometimes over the channel. So, but yeah, like I'm down to do like any of those events. I love jumping in live streams. Like, I had the same kind of butterfly feeling the first, actually, with this one, the first time I was on, it was the same amount of nervousness and everything. Like even if it's like a more tight group of people, like in a smaller group of people, that's more, like together and everything, like, and then we wound up like I think we broke through it. Like we went like 5 hours and it was crazy and it was a lot of fun. And, like I'm down to talk to whoever, like I'll talk to anybody. I don't care if they're like some crazy, like Nosball, I'll talk to them. Like, I don't care, but yeah, I guess to like the broader point, of Yankee's style and everything, I think when he gets challenged, I think that's going to just provoke more good in him, because when you are challenged, you have to think about your ideas. And if you just kind of shut down, people are going to see it. And if you don't budge, they're going to see it. And so he would kind of shift. And there was a little bit of goalpost moving, and there was a little bit of, some other defense tactics that were used. And there were some times where, like kind of common sense things that are well known were denied. Like he denied that mens rea was a legal component early on in the debate. So like he argued that like motive, he was kind of arguing that motive didn't really matter. And we were like, well, it does. Like, and his initial analogy was, if you see a white guy just run up on a black guy in a crowd and just hit him over the back of the head with a stick or a baton or something, like, would you, like, and he's kind of like implying like, wouldn't that be racist? And I'm like, well, not necessarily. Like, I don't know the context. It could just be a random assault. It could be, a mentally ill person. It could be whatever. Like I'm not going to infer their motives, much in the same way that if, Mr. Gunzengear gets facts wrong, I'm not going to infer his motives. I'm just going to tell him that he got his facts wrong, because that would be the most correct claim to make. And that was my point. And so we went back and forth on that. And that's one thing where sometimes in debates, I don't like analogies and I don't like hypotheticals, because sometimes people get so in the weeds with them that they stop being productive, because it's like, oh, well, that's a different analogy. People don't know what a false analogy is, and it drives me up the fucking wall. It's like my personal pet peeve. So
like there's too many variables or something.
So a false analogy is specifically when the two items are not alike in the aspects they're being compared. So you can compare apples to oranges. They are both alike in the sense that they are a fruit. That is not a false analogy. If I say a bicycle is just like a car, and that some people buy it because of its color, that's a fair analogy to make. Some people might only like to buy red things, and they buy red bikes and red cars. That's fair. What would be unfair is if I said, homework is just like a hamburger. Too much of it, eating too much of it is going to make you. Or actually, let me walk that one back. A false analogy would be like,
Go with
breathing air is just like eating hamburgers. Too much will make you sick. It's like, well, no, it won't. Like breathing normal air is not going to make you sick. You're going to do it your whole life. Those two things are not alike at all. And so you'd have to be really specific with your analogies in order for them to hold. But most analogies that people make are going to be reasonable. So like it drives me up the wall when I hear that fallacy, because it's typically when someone calls fallacy and calls false analogy, it's typically wrong. Colloquially, like when you hear it in a debate, just know it's probably bullshit. But yeah.
When they say, so in other words, they say, oh, you can't compare those two things. Well, with these specific set of criteria, we can. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. So like if you say the military is a lot like the police and that they both carry guns, that's a safe analogy. The military is like the police because they both napalm kids would be a false analogy.
Right.
Like that doesn't make sense. The police aren't napalming kids. Not that the military is anymore either, but you get my point. Like you have to almost go out of your way to make a false analogy.
They usually grow. So your bicycle one, you buy a bicycle, you buy a car based on color, big deal. But since they're both transportation, they should both be taxed. Now you've taken something and added to it, and while the initial analogy was apt, you've now started putting burden on there without challenge, and all of a sudden that's where I tend to see it come up or whatever.
It definitely starts to go south. So like if I said iPhones are like cars, people buy the one that they like because of the color sometimes. They'd be like, well, cars are transportation. Like you're like, come on, dude. Like we're talking about the color. Like that's step one. And then step two is when we keep building into an analogy as framework. And we build to like, now we're talking about taxing cars because somehow cars and bikes have the same color. And so this relates to, this non sequitur of tax because, and you have to go work through all that. And it's just like, where are we going with this? Just
say I think it's more of a result of like a conversation that just develops. I don't think too many people sit down and strategize like, I'm going to go here and here, and that way no one will figure out that I've laid a trap or I went a different direction. But more like you're saying, like you say something and everybody's down with it, and for whatever reason you just sort of use that as your analogy, and you try to patch things onto it. Before you know it, it's warped and mutated, and it's just not a good analogy anymore. And that's more of a, like I say, a reaction or a result of just a conversation that people are trying to agree or trying to get each other in the same direction or something, and it just fails. But every once in a while you get somebody who is like wrong or defending a bad position, and they just start adding extra burden onto these things that it starts getting bad. Now in 2020 hindsight, you can look at it and go, oh man, you were really reaching, but it usually isn't. They had some goal in mind. At least the conversations we have don't tend to be people that have some crazy thing that they build up to and then create, then drop on you. More like it just happens like a crazy Dr. Seuss house, and then you look at it and you're like, oh, maybe that didn't work.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's how, we have to go back and, kind of think back on our conversations sometimes. It's just a responsible thing to do in general, like especially like your channel is pretty, communication focused. Mine is communication focused as well. And it's like, if we don't go back and kind of just think every once in a while about how we talked and then maybe what we could have said better or how our old reasoning could have improved. And if we don't at least check that internally, I think that's doing ourselves a disservice personally.
All right. Well, I'm playing host, and I don't know how much time we got anymore, but I don't really get you two guys into a conversation. So let's quit talking about other people. And we've got 2020. We've got a year where no matter what you believe, we've got a unique set of circumstances going into a national election. I believe that it's a national election where we're going to see a change in paradigm between my grandparents, or my parents, I guess I should quit saying grandparents. My parents' generation it's going to be their last turn at bat, their last vote where their generation will have any significant influence in the vote. It's the first national election where the opposite, people who potentially be my children or even, my younger brother's children are voting for the first time as 18-year-olds in a national election. At the same time, that situation is happening where, whatever we are in the middle, we got about a half of the vote or a third of the vote, I guess. The young kids are going to get a third and it's going to grow. The old people have a third and it's going to dwindle and it's go into the kids. So these kids are getting their first taste of a national election. They're getting their first at bat, and some of them are going to be champions and some of them are going to get discouraged, but more than likely they're setting themselves up to have some champions here. Their politicians, their Nancy Pelosi's are growing because our Nancy Pelosi's are decaying on the vine. So as our old generation, our parents who suckle on the teat of the three-letter media corporations, right? As they dwindle and fall and the media goes with them, and we who grew up on media but have experienced and literally built the new media are going to hand or watch the baton be handed between the older people to the younger people. The younger people are going to pick it up and go somewhere with it. What chance do we have? That's what I'm building up to. What do we have in this year, this next couple of months, with the resources we have available, with Gun Rights Policy Conference going virtual, with I don't know what else we want to say. Lots of 2A rallies being canceled or pushed on till next year after elections. What can we three do to change basically the planet, the world, society, culture, real quick, before you guys have to ditch out of this chat?
Start local.
It's too late for that. Start local 5 years ago, yeah. But if the local doesn't exist, you don't start local in 3 months, do you?
Well, I mean, what's going on local is still going to shape things.
Well, maybe
local is what you're immediately going to have to deal with is local. So if there's anything you could do, you need to be paying attention, I guess, is what I'm saying. First and foremost, the local, because that's going to be your immediate concerns, right? What your representatives in Washington D.C. do. Oh, somebody's got to write a bill, and they got to co-sponsor some stuff. They got to read it on the floor, and it's got to go to the Senate. And if it changes, then it's got to get sent back, and then it may or may not go to the president at all because it may not get through the Senate, and then it may get vetoed, and it may get kicked back, and they may try to overturn the veto, and blah 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 blah. And months go by, and whatever the crap it is. But locally, your city council could go, yays, nays, yays have it, bang. That's it. We're done. And you're affected.
I'm actually kind of with that plan because I know right now in California, one of the big ones, it got stuck back in committee again, but it was AB 88. AB 88 is the one I talked about it before, but basically you won't be able to buy an 80% lower without a background, and it bans the Franklin Armory Title I, which is an other firearm. It prevents DOJ from having to accommodate other type firearms. So if it's not a rifle, shotgun, or pistol, and it's another, basically they regulated out a specific model. So there's a lawsuit going on for that right now, and the vote to get on that was, I believe, the end of June. So I pre-ordered one to help support Franklin Armory in that endeavor because I want to have a workaround for California's ridiculous gun laws. In addition, the rest of AB 88 is basically going to kill any. I think AB 88 kind of kills the soul of the Second Amendment, or the heart of it, maybe, which is you're losing the right to construct a rifle that you didn't have to talk to the government about. That to me is insanely wrong. So making sure that, since this thing is currently dead in committee, making sure that we are calling the Senate, because what happened on this bill was a whole bunch of people from the other side of the aisle, from the other position, called in support of AB 88 because of all of the other programs that were attached, but they happened to sneak in this gun legislation. So without us having access to some of those numbers, which were difficult to find, like how do I call into a live Senate meeting to have my voicemail read or heard? How do I email into one of those meetings? I can contact my rep, but how do I make my voice heard in the moment? So those are some of the questions I'm trying to get answers on right now, so that I can directly engage with my representatives and I can spread the word to other California gun owners. So my kind of strategy for that is to link into Second Amendment rights groups, and then make sure that we are all just communicating, sharing resources, and that when it's time, we can kind of show up in force. That's what all the anti-gun activists do. They have their messaging and their systems. We need to be, at the very least, able to compete with that if we're going to stand a chance at all. The other thing, too, is that we can't sleep on the fact that both Biden and Trump are terrible on guns. And so whoever wins the presidential election, there's a significant probability they sign whatever gun control legislation crosses their desk, right? So just like you're saying, who knows what's going to happen. Trump's ATF has not been great. Pistol braces, all that stuff. You guys know about that, I'm sure. So, we can't sleep on that either. I think it's a good election for, us millennials right now to be voting our values and to be really thinking outside of the parties, because the parties have failed us. Like your two major parties have failed us. The GOP is not going to be good enough, especially on the Second Amendment and in general for what we want. And neither are the Democrats. The Democrats are unable to work right now, in my opinion. They're anti-Trump only. It's just like it's kind of like the Tea Party back in the day, back in the Obama era. It's everything is about obstructing, and nothing is about making good legislation work. So I think that there's some aspects there that need to be addressed as well. And I'm interested in seeing how many of us are willing to vote libertarian or independent or Green Party or whatever. So I have no idea. I have no idea how that stuff's going to go. But I'm hoping that our generation pulls through and does the right thing and maybe gets away from that two-party system.
Well, I think that when you talk about the young people, I mean, the young people to an extent are looking at the adult figures, right? My kids are grown, but I mean, I'm still dad, and they still pay attention to what I do, right? So, if I'm talking from a local perspective, I'm talking about this candidate or that candidate, and I'm talking, local as in, for me, pretty much county, and then state. And if I'm talking about that, well, those ideas that I'm conveying about those candidates are going to translate over with them to the national level as well, right? So it's not like I have to have that national level conversation. I can have the local and put it in a perspective of this affects you now. This is the buck has to stop here if it doesn't, and they kind of see that progression maybe. And it changed their mind. But I mean, I totally agree with the two party. And I think that's slowly dying out. I think that's as we see the younger generations that G-Webs mentions coming up, I'm not real sure that's not going to change, be a thing of the past in a very short time. I don't think we're looking too many years away that we're going to see something have to change on that for sure. I'm really, for the first time in a while, I've got my problems with that libertarian, the Joe Jorgensen or whatever. I do have some problems there. And a presidential candidate, let's be honest, our system is more complex, and it's complex for a reason because of the checks and the balances and everything else that we're supposed to have. So even just voting a libertarian president, it's not going to magically solve everything overnight. But I think starting to look at some other options anyway. I mean, for the longest time, she's viable. I mean, I could hold my nose on a couple of things, and here's the other thing too, is they can say whatever the hell they want to say. You know what I mean? And until you get them in office, or if they've already been in office and have a track record, it's kind of hard to say, what they're going to do or what they're not going to do. But as far as optic wise, and what I know, I mean, for the first time in a while, the libertarian actually have somebody on their ticket that, I don't have huge problems with. And certainly better than either of the other choices we have, I think. Knowing that we got checks and balances in play with Congress, right? I need a caveat with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I will say, though, that if you got Biden or Trump or any other candidate to say that they'd repeal the NFA or they'd abolish the ATF, I would be all over them too. And that's not without reservations on those candidates, because they have plenty of problems. You know, and whether those problems are how they interact with children, how they interact with women, what their other policies are, substantive policy issues, you know, whatever. But yeah, I'm I'm in the camp where I'm like, you know what, even if Joe loses, which, you know, like, she's a viable candidate, in the sense that she's a strong libertarian candidate that hasn't put her foot too far into her mouth yet. Gary Johnson, that was a big problem, you know.
Yeah.
If you were to ask him what is Aleppo, his answer now would be probably, oh, a great way of losing an election.
Right.
Right. Totally unoriginal joke there. But yeah, I think that Joe seems to be a good candidate to me from what I've seen so far. She's the only candidate that's willing to abolish the ATF and work to repeal the NFA. With that in mind, yeah, she's earned my vote on that alone, and her other policies don't suck. So great.
Yeah. And if she's willing to do that, and this is kind of what I'm looking at, if she's willing to do that, if she's serious about that, then what other bureaucratic departments, right, could potentially be on the chopping block moving forward? Because we know that the bureaucracy of the federal government really is the problem. That's a huge issue. It's not really the elected representatives, right? It's all of the rank and file employees that run these departments that are put into play that are there for years and years and years as well.
Well, I would say the policies. It's what we're obliging the state to do that creates the bureaucracy.
Right.
The humans are necessary as part of the bureaucracy when you task the state with those things. I would say when you said that you don't think that if it doesn't really matter. I'm just to say third party because I don't really care what the third party is really. But you don't think it would make a big change. I disagree. I think it would make a big change. Not that they would have the ability to change things themselves, but the playing field right now, we've got two parties, and the way you think of them as dots on a number line, we have two dots on a number line. They could do basically a couple of things. One would be to hang out next to each other, right, and be similar. And another option would be to be unique and, you know, separate. And then another option would be pulling away from each other with tension constantly. And that's what people are pissed off about, is the tension. I think if we had two parties and they hung out in a chill area towards the middle and just had a couple of different things where they exchanged policy differences, nobody would really care. And they would just vote one way or the other. And for the majority of things that affected all of us, they would be consistent. What we've got is them pulling tension, intentionally creating tension, pulling away from each other on specific core things that aren't, you know, whatever, if you want to say manipulated or something, but certainly effectively pulling us on things that are very they keep us polarized. A third party either brings us a triangle where there's no way to just pull in two directions, but now there's another vector that's involved. So that creates nuance, or it brings the two dots all together to where, or all three dots together, I should say, to where they're all trying to similar themselves back on what, you know, the norm, like what most of us, that window, the center of the window, what most of us agree is legit need for government or use for government, and, you know, none of the fluff. If they all got together and fought for being the most chill, or if they all pulled apart and gave us a median that was right in the middle, that's where I think a third party, no matter what it is, gives us that potential. Now, I know I'm looking at that through rose-colored glasses with only positive results. There could be some horrible results at third party that I'm not aware of, because I'm sick of seeing the negative results of two party only. And I don't think we're doomed to this. I think we can change it. If it's an experiment and third parties is horrible, then I definitely need to see that. I need to consider me from Missouri. I want to see a third party ruin everything and fail, so that I'll go back to the idea of second. But you don't get to never show me a third party and say that it can never work because you somehow are omnipotent. That doesn't jive with me.
Right.
Yeah, I would be down to see like in basically like an ANCAP versus like in an ANCOM. Like I would rather see.
Hold on, we're not talking about ANCON, the 2A media project.
Oh
that
no, I'm talking like anarcho-communism. Straight up anarcho-communism.
Totally different thing. We're talking about totally different thing. Making sure.
Yeah. So I would rather see anarcho-communism against like anarcho-capitalism than see the authoritarian right Democrats debate against authoritarian right Republicans.
In other words,
Like,
instead of a libertarian party, like a communist third party show up to give us a third variable that's completely different.
So what I'm saying is, like, I would rather, if we were going to have this conversation, I'd rather have it on the libertarian side of the political compass. So, like, if it's the Bernie Sanders wing versus the Rand Pauls of the world, I would prefer that to be our two major parties, because I think
Oh,
that
there
would
you
just be better.
So in
So
other
that's
words, like
kind
I
of
was
the easier
saying,
way
any
of
third
saying it.
party, you're saying if it was a communist third party or like Bernie, a socialist third party, what we'd end up with is we'd have two positions yanking us
Well,
towards government and big state, and just one position, capitalism, pulling us away.
well, would having a socialist party or a communist party, would that potentially push a Democrat party further up or down that window because they wanted to distance themselves from an actual socialist or communist party?
Yeah,
Right.
and that's a good question, because if you were to ask the real leftists out there, they hate Democrats. Like, if you ask, like, straight up, like, commies, they hate Democrats because they're corporate, they're fake, they take away their gun rights. Like, the genuine ideological left, like the Marxist left, needs arms in order to uprise against the bourgeois. Like, they need guns for that task, and they understand that. And they vote that way as much as they're able, in line with all the other socialism, policies that they can get. So they try to find the candidate with the most socialism that's, the best on guns. Of course, that's not as often as we'd like. So, what I've been trying to talk to the liberal gun owners out there about is, hey, why don't you go tell your Democrat congressman, your Democrat senator, whoever you've elected, your Democrat that's in power in your area or that represents you, go tell them that they need to get out of the way of 2A at a minimum. They need to get out of the way, and they should be supporting it, because that's the only way that you can protect your rights, especially when they're calling to defund the police. You don't have another option. So that's the route that they want. So it's like the what is it, like, right, your redneck revolt groups and your what is it, John Brown, I think, and like your you have, like, all your different kind of, like, you have militant socialist groups, which are basically just left-wing 3%ers effectively. And yeah, like, why shouldn't we leverage them? Like, why shouldn't we be in the same fight for our rights? Because that's what they want. The only difference between us and them is, like, if you're on the libertarian spectrum, the right wing libertarians, the only difference is that you don't want government to be you prefer a different economic model. You prefer capitalism to socialism. That's the only difference. Your liberties fundamentally, other than that, are the same. Like, you pretty much believe the same thing on liberty. So, like, why not take advantage of that? Use both of those groups, the right wing libertarians, the left wing libertarians, and move the spectrum just down. Like, that's what I'd love to see. So.
So
I guess I agree.
no, go ahead, G.
Well, I mean, we kind of went all over. I gave you super open-ended questions and how are we going to save the world and society and 2A and everything and the rest of the chat. So obviously we went all over the place, but I was just giving us a chance to tether it back in.
Oh, okay. Well, I was gonna ask about the Senate. I mean, I think the Senate is going to be an important thing. But if we retain a Republican Senate, do you see Biden as that big of an issue?
Oh yeah, because the president still, goes up there making a bunch of noise. Now he might be ineffectual physically because he's not good at speaking, so he might just sit around typing dictates and not,
Well, sure.
getting big political rallies going. So he might be that kind of president, but I don't even want to know. Nothing about it appeals to me, so I don't even want to see what.
Yeah, I know. And what I worry about with most of all with Biden, quite honestly, is his health. I mean, I don't want to see ill will to anybody.
Out. He can go, oh, I got a heart flutter. I'm going to sit down this one. You guys take my vice president, okay?
That's what I was saying. That's why I've been warning people that with the whole Biden thing and whatever, you need to pay attention to his VP because we're in a situation to where we haven't had a president that's died in office or anything in a very, very long time. And, you just look at the numbers, you look at the medical history, you look at weird things that go on with him seemed like on a daily basis and stuff. And it's like, we may be looking at that kind of an issue again. And, you know, the country is not, you know, we talk about the upheaval and the turmoil at the slightest little thing. You know, what's going to happen when a president passes away, and then now a VP pick jumps up that's vastly worse than anybody we could have ever imagined, because they weren't front and center when everything was going on, right?
Yeah, I think, and I think the other concern with Biden too is that, and this is my kind of sleeper concern, because the Democrats and Republicans aren't so unalike; they're very similar in a lot of ways. So you have Trump, who's agitated the Republican Party and kind of coerced their support down a Trump direction. But those guys, like, you know, did they suddenly change their ideology when Trump came to town? Or are they doing that because of Trump's political power and his control over the populist right-wing base, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's the latter. So, you know, I'd be willing to give to bet that it's the latter. So as soon as Trump is out, who's to say that Republicans keep voting in Trump-like ways?
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
Biden and Obama felt like they did really good work with the Republicans. They felt like there wasn't much difference at all between them and Republicans. And we know how they felt on liberty issues. So, you know, Joe Biden wants you to have a double-barreled shotgun and kind of leave it at that, right? So he's made that clear, right? He wants to take your AR-14. So, you know,
but we didn't, you know, we didn't really lose much under them though at the same time.
That's true. So, you know,
but to be fair, healthcare was a huge thing that they were focused on at that time as well.
The reason they were focused on it is, let's not forget how many people in Congress lost their jobs in subsequent to 1994 assault weapons ban. So 1994 assault weapons ban, written by, you know, the people that are old now when they were young. Then you got, I'm trying to think of when the presidents were. You get Bush in office when it ends, and then you get Obama come in. So you barely have the assault weapons ban end, right? And now all of a sudden we can buy stuff that the gun prohibitionists find atrocious, like horrible, right? All of a sudden we can buy that stuff again.
Yeah,
and crime rates aren't helping them at all. And that's when they have Obama. So the reason I think that they didn't go after guns until his 23 executive actions and he was in the second term is because they were scared shitless of 94, the consequences of 94. We still had people who were voters, like these were our parents and our grandparents, had 100% control of, you know, they were the only ones going to the polls. So, you know, the consequences of 94 was still imminent. And I think that's why Democrats didn't do nothing until two things. They felt emboldened because they couldn't lose. He was already in second term. Plus, we had forgotten, and they wanted to test the waters. They wanted to poke and see how resistant we were as a, I gotta say, community, even though I don't mean like, you know, we all love each other, we're a community, but like the people that own guns and care about the right, you know, if we were going to do anything, they had to poke. And his 23 executive actions were a big ass poke, and they got to, you know, this ain't done yet. This is still firm. Like we don't have soft jelly yet. Now we're not the same. We're not concrete. We're not, you know, something, and we're now softer. So who knows what they're going to do.
Yeah, and not to go totally into left field off of that, but that's entirely about the cultural battle as well that we fight. And with, I'm still working on that Moms Demand Action book. I'm still working on finishing it, but I can say that's a big aspect of their approach. They want to make guns as scary and as not normal as possible. That's one of their objectives, is to sow as much fear as possible around guns.
Overton window, right?
They want to shift the Overton window away from liberty and into police are safe with guns, and then eventually the police aren't even safe with guns. So they would like to see a completely disarmed world, I believe, at the end of the day. Despite their claims that they say they believe in the Second Amendment, what they mean is they believe that you should have a license in order to have any firearm, and your choices of firearm should be insanely limited. They believe in effectively killing the Second Amendment to where the state approves who gets to carry. So Their goals are to make sure that businesses don't allow you to carry. So they write to businesses and they say, hey, we're not going to shop here. We're a bunch of moms. Moms are a third of America, and we're not going to shop in your store until you ban firearms because we don't feel safe. And so what do the stores do when they get 10,000 angry letters from moms? They decide to ban open carry in their stores, so
When
that's
they
the
normalize
game they're playing.
start a little safe little house, safety pin garbage, like whatever their little campaign is, when they start to champion that, so you can virtue signal by putting up one of these posters that you've, blindly obliged their demands, then they win the social even more.
Yeah, and they're also very big on calling us gun extremists, right? Sometimes they'll leave out the rights part, so they'll call us gun rights extremists or gun extremists, and that's a very big way of characterizing it. And yeah, there's still like just there are aspects of that cultural game that they're playing, but their entire point is to get out there and win and network, and then also try to keep their network close and secret and protected. So they have a whole bunch of measures in place. And one of the problems with us libertarian people out here, one of the big problems with being libertarians is that we're very individual. So we always think, what can I do? As opposed to acknowledging sometimes the value of teamwork, right? And it's just something where we go, well, I did my part, so we're good. That's not good enough. We have to collectivize as well. We have to get together as well and be a team and go out there to face off in the narrative. But if we get angry, if we get unhinged, if we react any kind of way, they win. So their entire narrative is fear, because that's what they believe the NRA's message is, and the NRA is who they see as the threat. So so it's like, how do we counter their fear message? That's something that we could do directly, and we could engage on, instead of just trying to rely on winning legal cases when gun ownership is gets less popular overall over time. Like in exceptional times like this, that's different, but we have a lot of first-time gun owners now, right? But when we factor in all that type of stuff, it's like, okay, they're making the Second Amendment less approachable. They are working to make sure there's less and less new gun owners every year. Their goal is to make sure that guns are a rare thing and a scary thing when people see them, and that people are talking about how scary they are and engaging on how scary they are. So how can we make them look, how they actually are, which is like any other tool that you could use, like any other weapon someone might be allowed to have, like any hobby instrument that someone could have. How do we make a gun look like a jet ski or look like a hammer? And I don't know that I have a good answer for that yet.
No, now you're in trouble, because they've literally written into federal law that it's not legal to make it not scary. It's not legal to at least make it look anything like, it has to have the characteristics of a gun. Otherwise, it's considered a registered item.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like make it physically look like a cell phone.
Oh, I know. I
Like
just
that,
figured
but
it throw in there that then it sucks.
Yeah, I'm just talking like how can we make it like, because when you and I see guns, and Clover, feel free to chime in here, when the three of us see guns, we see something that would be fun to take to a range. We see something that's fun for outdoor activities. We see something that we could use if we're in a survival situation or a hunting situation. We see something that we can use to defend our homes. We see a piece of history. We see all these different aspects of guns that are really cool, and the public doesn't see that. So like, whatever we can do to get that out, I think winning the cultural battle is going to be huge. I think there's a massive culture war going on for the Second Amendment that we sleep on, and I think we need to wake up.
Don't be too discouraged, because there's certainly people that have been woke to that and have been efforting. Now, just because they haven't been successful, so you're not aware, don't think they're not out there. So I hear you. It's going to be a challenge to perpetuate their messages, or whatever the word is. Have you heard of a guy, for example, as you were talking there, Alan Corwin?
I've heard the name.
Alan Corwin is Bloomfield Press, and I'm going to type in Alan Corwin, Corwin, and then gun language, I guess. He's also a blogger and a writer. So he was a writer, and then it turned into blogging kind of thing. He's an old guy, so So he's been writing and the stuff turned into blogs. More often than not, he's been asked to speak at gun rights policy. He's been in the game for a long time. He's very respected.
So that's
And
for the preservation of whatever guy.
no, now he does help out the JPFO.
Uh-huh.
But originally he had nothing to do with their founding or anything. The thing is, the guy who founded JPFO died a number of years ago. So the organization still exists and has been kind of bounced around between people helping. So his name gets thrown in there, but I don't think he'd be the first to tell you. Like, he's taken up the reins, but he doesn't want to take credit for it or anything.
Okay, gotcha.
But he's a writer, and Bloomfield Press. You've seen the 50 states travel guide. He sells that. He's written some of the dumbed down gun guides to the 50 states. So if you've got like one of the Arizona gun laws books where it lists the gun law, but then it has the gun law written in layman's terms, he's the author of those. But his bookstore carries like the traveler's guide, the laws that are for all 50 states if you're traveling with a CCW, what to do after you shoot. So it's all 100% carry and gun and Second Amendment focused books that he's written. I can't even count, probably dozens and dozens of books. And then he publishes himself here out of Arizona, and he's active as an activist. One of his things, and I'll put a link in here, is his politically correct, I forget what he says, I'll go read it here in a second. Politically corrected glossary of terms. And like, I will never say that was a school shooting. That's bullshit. We're shooters. They're taking our word. We go shooting on weekends. We enjoy the act of shooting. Murderers who use guns aren't out recreationally doing nothing. They are murderers murdering, right? And that's the kind of stuff we're talking about. So they want you to say pro-gun because that's their connotation, that they want to imply that we are somehow weird and we're fixated by the item, and it's some sort of a phallic thing or some sort of a fetish thing that we have to have these things in our hands. No, we're pro-rights. We understand that the gun is the symbol of the individual freedom and the liberty of a bunch of individually free people working together, and the history, the hundreds of years now of that existence. That's the way it is, and we're pro-rights. We understand that the gun is simply a symbol of that. None of us are, except for unless we have a gun that means something to us, none of us care about the item. Things like that. So gun control versus kind control. And he's got a whole list of stuff like that. So you mentioned something kind of earlier, and I'm thinking so Alan's been out there kicking butt like this since forever, and the 80s. And if you're not aware of it, you just don't know. So I hear so many people in the conversations go, I wish XYZ was more prevalent. It's out there. That's all I'm throwing out there. It's out there. A lot of stuff has already been done, unfortunately, before the internet and before conversations like this. And look, we got 12 people watching us. I'm doing this in the middle of the night. It's not titled well, and it's not consistent. So it is what it is. But we're not to the point where everyone knows about everything that's going on, but we can get there. And now we've got the internet to keep stuff around, so we'll eventually get there. But yeah, we're not starting that journey. We're in it. We're past the first couple of miles. We're to the point where our backpack has settled and our legs have quit aching. It's just that, we're still a little bit we're not all united yet. And we're never going to get it walking in lockstep, but we'll eventually get in formation here. But we've all been walking. A lot of people have already made the hike. Their scouts have come back. We know where we're going. We definitely know what the idiots against us are doing. Doom on them. They've got some changes coming that I don't know if they're strategizing for those. Unfortunately, we have to assume that some of these weirdos that are watching that don't comment, right, on anonymous platforms like this are some of them. Like some of the 11 people watching here could be antis, and they're learning as much as we're creating. We're evolving the conversation. They're learning. Unfortunately, we got to remember that that's part of it. But doom on them. We get to learn from their bullshit too, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the beauty of Shannon Watts spilling the beans with her book. That's the beauty of these guys writing manifestos and giving us all the material that they do. We know what their arguments are,
or their strategies.
Yeah, like we know what their arguments are. There's no doubt that their arguments are always going to be very focused statistical arguments only, almost exclusively. No one's going to come with philosophical arguments. They have two appeals, which are think of the children, and then let's look at some statistics through a consequentialist framework, and then hope that that's sufficient to then determine what everyone else can do. They don't
Is
have
it-
anything else up their sleeve.
Is it
Like-
correct or is it accurate to say partial consequentialist argument?
You could say that because they're imposing other values as well. So, but generally speaking, it's just
How about like a pseudo consequentialist argument?
so.
'Cause I want to think of a cool intellectually way to diss them. You know what I'm saying? When they come at me, I want to say, "Oh, that's a pseudo consequentialist way to approach it."
You could say it's an inconsistent consequentialist argument, and then you could
Okay,
just
I like
pause it.
that.
So this is my gambit that I'm going to drop a video on this one, but I'll spoil it early here because it's fun and it's late. So
Always
how many
like
people?
the
Yeah.
antis. To us, me, Clover, and then like 13 antis.
Yeah, right. So congrats, you guys get it first. But think of every atrocity that's been committed in the 19th, 20th, 21st century, right? All kinds of crazy wars, genocides, slaughters, right? And then think about what happened with each of those populations. We know that the government would work to disarm and disrupt and basically do counterinsurgency, right? So that's one aspect of it. When we think about that, we know that the cost paid in sacrificing your right to defend yourself is literally hundreds of millions of lives. So if you're a consequentialist, so the only thing that determines if an action is moral is by weighing, how you determine that is by weighing consequences and seeing which action has better consequences. So you can talk all you want about, 30,000, 60,000, whatever gun deaths a year. You could say that. Cool. Got it.
With making sure that we note that that's including the suicides. So they're counting the suicides as somehow violent crime.
Yeah. And so you take that and then you say, oh, okay. So how many years? Because if that was the insurance cost, so let's say that we're just cold-hearted assholes. Let's say that those 60,000 lives every year were the insurance cost of having a free society. So the cost of freedom is paid in blood because of dumb people doing dumb things. But that's what prevents 10 million people from dying every century, because there's not a genocidal event that happens in the US because we have armed populations that will fight back. So it keeps our government honest.
Hold on. Are you allowed to then extrapolate? And if you keep a strong US, the US has done things like save flood victims, save hurricane victims, work on, are you allowed to extrapolate? You'd remove that, and then that means we wouldn't have the ability to help. So not only would you be cutting off your nose to spite your face, you'd be cutting off your nose and spiting the whole body and the neighbors.
Yeah, and I don't even need to take the argument there, because that's the and one, right? That's the bonus point. Right? But if you take the argument, if you followed that argument out, okay, well, how many years of 30,000, gun homicides or whatever, or well, not even 30,000, right? It's like between 8 to 10,000 gun homicides on average a year in the U.S. So how many years of 10,000 gun homicides would I need in order to make up a genocide of 10 million people? That's going to be a lot of years. So, and we know that those types of events happen maybe once a century for a nation. So, okay, so do the math, right? If you were super cold and super calculated and you were a genuine consequentialist and you believed that you should avert the most deaths possible, you would want to avert genocide. And so you would allow people to own guns, even if that came with some risk. So that would be, if they were philosophically consistent, that's the type of argument that could work on them and could be persuasive. What we're going to find is that they're not philosophically consistent for the most part. They'll abandon that philosophy when it's no longer convenient, and they'll probably switch to something like, but think of the children for the street debate. The academic debate would get more complex with that. But I mean, if we're talking people in the street, if they heard that argument, it would be a repulsive argument. They wouldn't like to think about it.
They're not going to take something through theoretically, if that's the right word. Like, they're going to say there's no way to prove all that stuff. You're assuming the worst is going to happen, and they're just going to assume the best, right? Oh, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I see your chat there. I'm just kidding. I figure people that are up this late are probably driving or working or something.
Yeah. Yeah. And they might think that, and I don't know, I don't know. I don't know how willing they are to take that argument or how well that would have to be fleshed out. That's something that I'm working on, because I think that insurance argument is the reason I don't like it is because we're talking about letting people die as though that's okay, which obviously it's not. There are things that we can do to prevent violent crime in general. There are things that we can do to make people to help people be better, not without making them be better, without compelling them to. Right? We can get rid of a bunch of welfare programs that don't work. We can get rid of a lot of government spending that's ineffective. We can refocus those funds into things for the public good that do work. There's a bunch of different things that we can do that would address our problems tremendously. And we don't do them because, let's be real, our government is not the best, right? We have a good system. We have one of the best systems in the world. We have the most freedoms, at least on paper, in the world. But we don't have, we don't have everything as perfect as it could be. And it's like, it's worth making America better. That's why we do what we do, right? So, I think it's just kind of taking perspective on that argument, but just a thought.
Right on. Well, I appreciate that you're like putting those angles out there. I think we'd mentioned that one of the concepts like a bunch of us came up with in the past was having some sort of like cards or flashcards or business cards, something that you could potentially have a couple if you knew you were going to a rally or something, carry a couple in your pocket. And if there was, a conversation went in the direction of suicides, then have a card that had some relevant information, a quick URL or one of those things that they could scan to get to a data page or something, or a PDF, just straight text. So that I guess ideally, if you have a conversation with someone and you simply work, you understand what their position is, and then you give them something that has facts that they can go question or whatever. And now you're giving them something that they can put in their pocket with a lead, with a direction. And if they are truly interested and they, get home or wherever they're going and they reach in their pocket and they're like, oh yeah, that thing is there. They stick it by their computer, maybe it gets to where they actually use the thing, or they're on their phone, who knows. But I like the idea that we're thinking about new directions for what maybe to put on a card like that. So even if people don't carry the cards, even if it's just a set of bullet points and you've seen them before, like different ways to address different people, different ways to take a conversation so that maybe you're not pissing off somebody who's argumentative and you're giving some food for thought to somebody who's inquisitive or something. So you're giving the appropriate medicine to the situation. That's right.
Yeah, and I think that's spot on. Actually, that's something that maybe between semesters I might be able to work on if you haven't already found that, or if you haven't already done it. I do have my designer suite tools here. I might be able to do something between summer and fall terms. I'd be interested in doing that anyway.
Yeah, no, we've thought about it, and that's unfortunately one of the things that still, after however many years, 2 decades of doing stuff online, that's just grassroots. It's not a job, so nobody's getting paid, so no one's here for a career. So there's just no consistency. It's how to keep things, concepts, things juggling, things moving with multiple people involved, I guess.
Yeah, and that's that's going to be part of the struggle, right? There's always going to be more work for us, right? And that's the other side of it is that
it's part of the struggle only to figure it out, because ideally it's an obligation that we're all willing to take because we understand the results are freedom, right, and liberty. So as long as we understand that it's something we're willing to do, it's like fighting fires. Yeah, it sucks, but fires happen. They're not evil; they just happen, and it's sometimes on accident, sometimes it's evil, I guess. But you get rid of fires. Like everyone's just like, let's get rid of the fire. So as soon as they came up with the idea of a volunteer fire department, things were better, right? Like once we figure out how to have a volunteer fire department for 2A, or we get together and, maybe we like different sports or we like different ways of shooting or whatever the hell else. And we come together when something's on fire, we put it out, we take off our fire hats and go back to doing things. Sometimes some of us go to a barbecue together. Others of us go water skiing together, but when there's a fire, we fight fire. That's all we got to figure out.
Yeah, and that's that's exactly right. It's the team coming together, man.
But anyway,
I'm
so
down
yeah, if
with
you
it.
come up with some bullet points or what, we can, like I was saying, like you either have some cards or maybe a card with some different, different points on it. I don't know, there might be different value. If we keep them nice and short, I figure the most voted can tattoo it right to their forearm. And then that way, when they're having a conversation, they can just point to different parts of their forearm as like footnotes.
Yeah, right.
They
They could have that QR code on it. Some
Uh-huh.
people would get wigged out. I think it was like the microchip type stuff or whatever,
It'll be really annoying to some people when URLs change, when somebody moves a website around or something, and it's like, oh shit, it's not slash forward slash R7.
Yeah, the Bitly expires. Now you're going to whatever.
So now it's almost midnight here, so thanks for jumping in, but I'm assuming it's late for you.
Oh yeah, dude. I was up till like 2 last night, so this is a great time to turn in.
Right on. So I appreciate the conversation, and interesting to see on Yankees. I probably won't go back and watch it. I don't really have all that much time right now. If I had more time, I'd probably go back, but good to hear a summary of it, and sounds like something you could do again. So have fun with that if you do. And
I'm excited. But yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate your time tonight, and have a good night.
yeah, so we'll keep doing these kind of things. I forgot, and like showed everybody earlier, the way this duck thing from Canada works, I just clicked on the wrong icon, and that's why it's on this channel tonight. Normally, this is on our other channel where I put the long videos, Daily Gun Show. So just go to Daily Gun Show on either guntube.org or gunstreamer.com or wherever other platforms you might be watching this on. And we'll be back to pick it up later.